I'm a bad man right now.
I set out to be a legend.
Darren Stewart shoots. It's a rally of punches here. Yes! Let's do it. I'm ready for some big fight. I'm not scared of anyone. They're all getting it.
Sweet baby Jesus and the orphans, welcome to it. It is your official weigh-in show for Fight Night UFC Brunson versus Till. I'm Adam Catterall. It's a pleasure as always to be in your company. And look at these two lads, big cheesy grins on the faces because they know what's coming your way. It is a Brit thirsty card live from Las Vegas. The Hall of Famer, Mr. Michael Bisping, joining myself and Nick Peet to preview this for you. Just a quick one before everybody hits the scales. There's your main card, and the beautiful thing that you should be noting is those times for UK fight fans. Prelims underway from 7 p.m, main card from 9 p.m. on BT Sport 2. And of course, that main card, Nick, kicking off with Paddy the Baddie. He's pumped already. He's already been tweeted. He said he's fifth on the scale. So get ready. If you're a Paddy Pimblett fan, he's coming short.
It's going to be insane. Just, we waited so long for this guy to make his UFC debut. This is his third time the UFC have come knocking. He finally feels like it's time to put on a show. And I tell you what, if you've never seen Paddy the Baddie before, hold on to your hats, because even just seeing him at the weigh-in, expect the unexpected. It's going to be a fun journey with this kid.
Mike, before they do hit the scales, let's talk about that main event, because this card has been built around Darren Till taking on Derek Brunson. 5 versus 7. The middleweight fight has got absolutely massive ramifications for the victor.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, first of all, it's going to be a fantastic fight. Let's not forget about that. The ramifications are one thing, but if you're a fight fan, you're going to enjoy this. Darren is coming into this one more motivated than ever. Obviously, he's had some he's had some key losses in his career, but he's still the fire inside him to become champion burns so strongly and so brightly. He has left no stone unturned in the preparation. And then on the flip side, we've got Derek Brunson, who again, of course, he fell to Adesanya in the past, but he's on a 4-fight win streak. He's looking better than ever. He's relocated to new coaches some time ago, and we're seeing the proof of that work. He's looking better than ever. Very strong, hits hard, great wrestling. So yeah, big ramifications, but a big, very competitive fight.
For fight fans tuning into this in the UK, the thing, as well as the fights that I'm most looking forward to, Nick, I don't know about you, is this guy interviewing the Brits when they're all victorious. Some of them interviews are going to be absolutely crazy inside the octagon at the Apex.
Listen, just as long as they all are victorious, then I'm sure we'll be happy. But yeah, what a fantastic moment, just to see, not even just Till, but Molly McCann as well. It's great backstory there. This is the last fight on her current contract. And who isn't excited about Tom Aspinall, whether you're British or not? The guy, kind of like Cyril Gane, looks like the future of their heavyweight division. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected, he's taking it all in his stride, and he's quite happy to take baby steps to a title fight.
Let's get some pictures from Las Vegas, shall we? Because a lot of people are extremely excited about that. So thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. It's a fully interactive show. You can contribute as and when via our social media feeds, whether that be Instagram, and we will call you through all the fighters that are coming through on the prelims and on the main card. And as we've kind of pumped up for you, there's quite a lot of British interest in this with that main event of being Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. As Nick's just pointed out there, you've got Tom Aspinall in the co-main event, who's taken on a last-minute opponent as well. I know that he's called out Sergei Spivak in the past, but this was supposed to be against Pavlovich. He's taken this on, I think it's 7 or 8 days. A fantastic opportunity for Tom Aspinall to announce himself as well to the wider audience. You've got Molly McCann on there, you've got Bukauskas on there, you've got Paddy Pimblett on there. And, of course, Welsh dragging himself, Jack Shaw, who's looking to go 15-0. And speaking of changes of opponent, Mike, how many changes of opponent does Jack Shaw need? I think he's only about his 54th opponent just this week. Nobody wants to fight the Welshman.
Yeah, well, listen, obviously when you're commentating, we do fighter meetings every week. So I spoke to Jack on Wednesday, and his mentality was the correct mentality. He's like, look, listen, I'm trying to be the best. I'm trying to be the champion. First of all, he recognizes he needs to get ranked. And to do that, he's got to fight, And so regardless of who the opponent is, he's happy to fight them. And that's kind of the approach you got to have.
Here for the official weigh-in UFC Fight Night.
There he
Brunson
is.
versus Till, live tomorrow night on ESPN+.
Good to hear.
First athlete to the scale. The man around whom this fight card was built, the 7th-ranked middleweight in the world, Darren Till.
Look at this. Absolutely no messing about. I spoke to Darren last night. He seemed very confident that he'd come in actually underweight. So let Darren Till on the scales.
185 and a half, the official weight for Darren Till.
There you go. Non-championship weight, 185 and a half. Looking well. Off to go and refuel, Mike. And talk to me about that. A bit of a statement. First out. Get it done. Get it dusted and get off to the buffet.
Well, that's it. I mean, the sooner you weigh in, the more time you have to rehydrate. So Darren's been very, very
next
professional
fighter to
there.
the scale in the UFC's bantamweight division, Marcelo Rojo.
I'm going to have a word with John Anik if he keeps interrupting me like this. I mean, I know he is the man. He's the dulcet tones of the octagon man. But still, John, have a bit of respect. But here he is, Marcelo Rojo. I like this guy. I think he's had one fight in the UFC so far. Didn't go his way, but he looked good.
Yeah, first up on the prelims, Marcelo Rojo. You'll get this from 7 o'clock.
Official
He's taking
weight,
on
135 and a half for
Jonathan
Marcelo
Martinez.
Rojo.
Yeah, he's coming for Nathaniel Wood, hasn't he? Nathaniel Wood was supposed to be fighting Martinez. So, that was one fight that dropped off from UFC London, and Rojo's jumped in at the opportunity.
All right, next fighter to the scale. You can see him compete live on the main card on ESPN Plus in the UFC's welterweight division, David Zavada.
He's loud, isn't he, John Anik, today?
Let's talk about Till. I know. Let's talk about Till for a moment, because just being that professional, Mike, getting on the scales nice and early, getting it done. Is he sending a message out there saying this is a brand new Darren Till? This is an all-professional, game-faced Darren Till?
170 and a half.
I don't know if he's
the official weight for David Zavada.
I don't know if he's sending a message, but he's certainly doing the right thing. He's taking it seriously. Listen, sauntering in right before the weigh-ins finish, and you might say, oh, that's the way I like to do it. That is not the correct way. The more time that you have to rehydrate.
Now, moving on to the light heavyweight division as we welcome Khalil Roundtree Jr.
To put nutrients in your body, you know what I mean? The more time to recover. It takes a long time. So you start that process as soon as possible. Darren's done that. First on the scale. Very impressed with his professionalism there. Obviously,
official
we
weight,
know this fight means a lot
for Khalil Roundtree Jr.
We got a real lineup here. They're waiting one after the other. Fair play,
Yeah.
As Adam would say, off to the buffet.
Got to get rehydrated, man. That's a great
Paddy
fight.
and Molly next.
Yeah, you're right. Just a quick one on that.
All right, next up in the UFC's bantamweight division, we welcome back the undefeated Jack Shore.
I'll tell you something. We need to turn John Anik's mic down so we can get cracking, boys, in some of this conversation. Jack Shore here, 14 fights, 14 victories. Well, as I said, he's had plenty of change of opponents this week, but here he is for his 15th fight. And he
136 pounds, the official weight for Jack Shore.
And extremely well-rounded. Yeah, extremely well-rounded mixed martial artist, isn't he, Mike?
Yeah, no, he is. He's fantastic. He's a lot of fun to watch. Very, very technical approach. Very mature as well, and, went through all those opponents, as we said. Didn't bat an eyelid.
All right, next fighter to the scale, charged with kicking off the main card live on ESPN Plus, making his much-hyped UFC debut in the lightweight division, Paddy Pimblett.
I'm a little bit disappointed that they've not got some bouncy house for him to walk out to, Nick. This is ridiculous, man. He should have had some tunes on, shouldn't he?
He looks in good nick.
He looks in incredible shape. Best I've seen him.
155 and a half, the official weight for Paddy the Baddy Pimblett.
Looks like he's filled out, Nick. Looks like he's grown into that body.
Yeah, absolutely. But not only that, his nutrition and his strength and conditioning's bang on now. Both himself and Molly work with a friend of mine called Paul Reed, who, what he doesn't know about nutrition.
Right, next fighter to the scale in the UFC flyweight
you can
division,
see the difference
Molly
here, and you'll
McCann.
see now with Molly walking out. Molly's the only UFC fighter that gets a six-pack, but is only able to retain it for about 20 minutes. And I guarantee as soon as she has a mouthful of water, that six-pack disappears. I feel terrible for her.
Well, she's taking my record then, because I used to be exactly the same way. Every time I would weigh in or slim down for a fight, I'd be like, right, that's it. I'm staying in this shape this time. It wasn't 20 minutes, about a week. Boom, all those abs were gone.
The official weight for Molly McCann.
Looking good, though. Again, yeah. And that's a big fight. She's taking on Ji Yeon. And you would think that it's a bit of not a crossroads fight, because that's a bit hard to say, but they're both coming off losses, so it's a huge fight, that. And they put it, obviously, at the top of the prelims in order to, obviously, kick on into that main card. So a bit of pressure on both of them tomorrow.
Absolutely. Anytime you're coming off losses. Yeah. Sorry, Nick. You go ahead, mate. You go ahead. Just a little bit of a delay makes it a little tough.
I was just going to say, there is pressure on them, but both girls are entertaining. They're both entertaining strikers. They're always in fights, which is exactly why they're at the top of the prelims. So you would think, oh, the loser's in a bad situation. But we're talking about two fighters who always turn up and always leave it all inside the octagon. So I think that it's been placed there for a reason. It will catch fire, and it could be fight of the night.
Molly's very, very excited to watch. She brings it every time. So I know she's
the Baltic Gladiator, Modestas Bukauskas.
I know she's feeling a lot of pressure to get a win here, but, I don't, even if, God forbid, it doesn't go her way, I don't know if she'd get her walking papers because she's a lot of fun to watch, as I say. But anyway, here he is. Here's Modestas.
It's my sleeper for fight of the night, this, boys. These two don't go backwards.
205, the official weight for Modestas Bukauskas.
Taking on Khalil Roundtree. Should be good in that.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I was talking to him Wednesday. First time I'd spoke to him, and I didn't realize he was such a chatty cat. Couldn't shut him up. On and on and on he went. He was in great spirits, had a lot to say, and a very mature approach to the fight. Very interesting talking to him.
149.5, the official weight for Charles Jourdain.
Now, supposed to be fighting Lerone Murphy, and obviously at last minute it all got changed up for the Julian Erosa, hence the catch weight. That's why you've got that 149 there, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you get a bit confused with the weights.
Set to make his UFC debut here tomorrow night in the bantamweight division, Ludwig Chalagnan.
He's the geezer that put his hand up.
Put his hand up. Yeah, finally put his hand up to get an opponent for Jack Shaw. Yeah. The poison chalice. But listen, you make a UFC debut, it doesn't matter. When that call comes in, Mike, you answer the call and you take your chance because this kid can change his life with a big performance against Jack Shaw.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just on the most recent season of The Ultimate Fighter. Didn't go his way, but they needed somebody to step in, unfortunately, his hand up, as you say, with great risk comes great reward. And, he's got a shot because the man can wrestle. He's a Ukrainian wrestling champion back in his homeland. Comes from Armenia originally, but spent a lot of time in Ukraine. And as I say, could be a difficult matchup for Jack Shaw, but we'll see what happens.
Dolce Liambula on the stage taking on Marc-Andre Barrion in the middleweight division, both coming off impressive wins last time out. Barriol actually went on about a 4-fight skid at one point.
185, the official weight for Dolce Liambula.
Big dude.
Yeah, I remember when Dolce came to the UFC, I was very excited for him. He had a great debut. And when I was talking, if you just take, look at the guy, you can see he's absolutely jacked. He's very, very powerful. He has had some issues with pacing himself throughout 3 rounds. He kind of slows down a little bit. But that's often the case when somebody's so heavily muscled. But I am looking forward to that one. Who's he taking on again? Yeah, Andre Barriol should be a good one.
His only loss in the UFC, Mike, is against Ankalaev as well, which, let's be honest, we all believe Ankalaev is going to be a future champion in this weight division at some stage as well. So absolutely no shame in that. But you're right, background in Congolese judo champion out of Congo, and then went over to the ADCC in Dubai and medaled over there as well, which was a mad surprise. So amazing background, a former light heavyweight and heavyweight champ of EFC, which is the biggest promotion over in Africa. So, yeah, man, I'm super excited about this guy. Once he gets that pacing right, we could have a contender on our hands at 205.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. He took on, I think it was Dequan Townsend in his UFC debut. I called that one, and yeah, it was a fun fight, very, very good. And as you say, Ankalaev, no shame in that because that guy is an absolute animal. And he got to the 3rd round as well. Normally he gets guys out of there pretty quickly. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that one.
If you've just joined us, it's 10 minutes into the official weigh-ins from Las Vegas. Fight night, Brunson versus Till. It's going to be an absolute 7 p.m. That's right, 7 p.m. is what I'm saying to you for the prelims on BT Sport 2, with the main card getting underway from 9 p.m. They're going to be fighting in the afternoon over in Las Vegas for a European time-friendly audience. Now, just check this out. All the Brits have flown through bar one. And I wouldn't mind, but Tom Aspinall's an heavyweight and he's sharing a house with Darren Till at the moment. What's he playing at? You know what I mean? Is he just having a little bit of a lie-in just to keep us going, Mike? He could have got in the same car as him, couldn't he?
No. He's doing what heavyweights do. Every time I would weigh in, I'd be there, I'd be on death's door. I've just cut 20 pounds. I'm dying. I'm looking at people just having a coffee. I'm thinking, please, moisture. I just want something to drink. And then you look at the heavyweights and they're standing there with a can of Coke and a cheeseburger. And I'm thinking, ooh, if I weren't on BT Sport, I'd swear. It starts with a W. But anyway, he's doing the right thing. He can have a lie-in. He can luxuriate. He can show up. He can even have a little breakfast. I spoke to him on Wednesday. He said he's going to weigh in about 2 feet. So he's got almost a 20-pound window there. So no stress for Tom. Get some rest, lie in bed.
All right, next
show
fighter to the
whenever
scale
you feel
charge.
like
Kicking
it.
off the main card live on ESPN Plus in the UFC's lightweight division, Luigi Vendramini. Here's
Luigi Vendramini. Obviously, from a UK point of view, we're all high on Paddy Pimblett and his UFC debut. But Vendramini, he's 9-2 in mixed martial arts, and those 9 victories have all come by stoppage, Mike. You know what I mean? He's no joke, this kid. It's going to be a proper test for Paddy. It's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire for him.
Oh, yeah. When I was watching him this week, he had a fight against Jesse Nayari, and I'm telling you, he looked sensational in that. Hurt him with the hands through a long combination, and then from real close through a head kick which connected, that dropped him, and he got the finish. And then in his follow-up fight, he lost by split decision to Faraz Zayam. But I'm telling you, again, he gave a really good account of himself.
Luigi Vendramini.
He's hungry. He's got good boxing. He's got good footwork. You know, he doesn't have the name value, but he's a tough test for Paddy. Make no mistake.
What an opportunity for him, Nick, taking on Paddy Pimblett, who's got a lot of chat about him this week. A lot of people are meeting him for the first time and getting eye on him this week. An opportunity for Vendramini to steal that thunder.
Yeah, and this is a guy with, you say he's finished all his fights. 5 of those finishes were in the first round as well. So he's used to fighting guys. He's used to starting fast. And one thing you can guarantee with Paddy, because there's so much hype behind him, there's so much excitement, is that Paddy ain't going to feel his way into the fight. He's going to fly out. He's going to run out and he's going to throw a flying triangle or do something absolutely bonkers, because that's just what Paddy does. And that may well play into Vendramini's hands. Vendramini like brilliant. Come right at me and let's get right at it, because clearly, statistically, he likes to start fast as well. So this is the one fight where I think the judges can have the night off. We know it's going to be a finish. Hopefully it's Paddy, but Vendramini, as you say, he's probably seen the build-up that Dana put out yesterday on his Instagram, where Dana was saying, here's the fights to look out for. And then he made a big deal of Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. He was like, this guy kicking off the main card, he's this, he's that. I'm sure Vendramini's watched that and thought, okay, great. The more spotlight you shine on him, the bigger spotlight I can take away. So, yeah, I think it's always going to be a baptism of fire when you join the UFC, when you're in a weight division like lightweight and welterweight especially, because they're just so stacked. But Paddy's ready, and I think this is a brilliant first fight for him. It's a great opportunity for him. Vendramini is no joke. But from day one, if Paddy can get a finish here and get a win here, then straight away he's starting 4 steps up the ladder.
Well said. Listen, I'm just having a quick look down the list. All the Brits have come through bar Tom Aspinall. We're just waiting for a couple more off the main card and 1 or 2 off the prelims, which gives us a perfect opportunity, whilst there's a little bit of a lull in the action for people watching this, wherever you are consuming this on BT Sport, just to really get stuck into that main event and have a bit of a preview from a stylistic point of view, Mike. Till the betting favourite coming, even though streak. Go along with that. I think it's only minimal. It's only minimal. I think it's plus 175 if we're talking
right.
Minus 175 if we're talking your way, mate. It's only minimal, but he is the betting favourite going into it.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, it's not my way; it's the American way. Don't try and lump me into that boat. Secondly, I mean, when you look at it on paper, if Darren can stop the takedown, then it favours him massively. Of course, Derek Brunson hits hard. I'd actually say that Derek is the harder punching of the two. Of course, Darren can bang. He packs a solid punch. But Brunson is extremely explosive, but he's just not as technical. He's a little sloppy. He leaves his chin out there, and he throws big power shots, whereas Darren puts together nice combinations. And another reason why Darren's the favourite, he's got good takedown defence. If he is taken down, he's got a really good ability of popping straight back up. I mean, I'm trying to think, other than when Tyron dropped him and got that Doris, I don't think we've ever seen him really controlled for any significant period of time on the ground. So if you take away the wrestling for Derek Brunson, I think it favours Darren Till all day. That said, it's still a very, very dangerous fight. The fact it's close with the bookies, that does represent how close the fight is, because, for For Brunson coming in on a 4-fight win streak, and he's beating good guys like Edmund Shabazian. Everyone was high on him, like he was the future of the division. Great striking, took him out of there in spectacular fashion. So it's a tough fight for both men.
Nick, whenever I speak to fans about Derek Brunson, they always mention wrestling. But the guy's got 7 first-round finishes in the UFC. I know he's been here for 9 years, so obviously they rack up over a period of time. But he does have heavy hands, as Mike has just pointed out there. And when we refer to wrestling, automatically you think that that's where the style is going to be, isn't it? It's going to be Darren on the feet, or Derek's going to wrestle. But as Mike just pointed out there, the takedown defense of Darren Till's sensational. 82%, I think it is, on his takedown defense. So the way that these boys are going to gel tomorrow night is going to be captivating for the fans to watch back home.
Yeah, and just as one of the questions coming there, Darren's looking really good. Do you think that he can stuff the takedown attempts? Well, that's key, isn't it? If he does stuff those takedown attempts, then you'd fancy Darren while it's on the feet. Brunson has, of course, got that big, heavy shot coming over the top. Suits 2 southpaws as well, so a little bit of a clash of styles. But listen, I think the advantage, of course, is probably based on the fact that Till is almost 10 years younger than Brunson, a lot less miles on the clock. And I think Till has probably got bigger wins and bigger performances on his record. I think he's been in there. He's fought for the title before, albeit down at the weight division below. He's been in a lot of big fights in main events as well, which Brunson's generally struggled with. And I think people are looking at his last performance. He took Robert Whittaker right to the wire in their fight, whereas Robert Whittaker finished Brunson in the first round. I think that might be where the bookies are getting their inspiration from. But listen, every fight starts on its feet. And while it's on its feet, I think you've got to fancy Darren Till.
Mike, what have you made of the Apex smaller cage? Have you found that is favouring wrestling styles, or have you thought that it's not made any difference whatsoever?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the fact that we're at the Apex almost every weekend, and it's been for what? Now, there's been so many fights. I think people have forgotten about that, because the reality is a smaller cage does favour the grappler. It's easier to find them, and it's significantly smaller, I think, and I could be getting this wrong, but I'm not far off. Each section of the octagon is 6 or 8 feet shorter than the bigger one. So in terms of surface area on the octagon floor, it's a massive difference, and you can really see it, and you can feel it as well as a fighter when you step in there. When you're used to fighting in the big cages, you get in the smaller ones, you're like, whoa, this is smaller. And if you're a wrestler, you're trying to track your opponent down. And another thing you're trying to do is get him up against the fence, because against the fence, the takedowns can be sometimes easier. Of course, easier to defend as well, but it does make a big difference. So the smaller cage definitely, unfortunately for Darren, plays into the hands of Derek Brunson. And just what Nick was saying before about Brunson, I agree with everything you said, Nick. And anytime you look at Brunson, and when he's gone up against an elite striker, he's fallen. You look at Israel Adesanya. Jacare, actually, who's not an elite striker, he's an elite jiu-jitsu guy, but he's got power. He knocked him out. There was 2 head kicks in a row. And, of course, there was Robert Whittaker and Anderson Silva. Other than that, he's passed the test the whole time. But they're all fantastic fighters. The point I'm making is anytime he stepped up to that next level, to the truly elite level, he's stumbled. But because of that, he's got a new team. He's worked on a lot of different things. He's worked on his mindset, and he's matured as a fighter. These are all things that will definitely help. Like if I use myself as an example, I had my best form when I was about Derek Brunson's age, because you start to understand how to control the emotions. And that's something that Derek spoke about this week, because, this controls everything. The mind control. No point having all those skills and all those tools if you don't capitalize them, if you don't utilize them correctly. If your mind's all over the place, it doesn't matter what skills you've got. Anyway, he says coming into this one, his mind's there, the training is done, so the physical side is there, but this thing is screwed on correctly.
It is a very good point that Mike just makes there, Nick, regarding him now working with Stanford and being under the tutelage of Henry Hooft. That side aspect is massive in this game.
It is, especially for someone like Brunson, who, let's be honest, when he fought Anderson Silva, he was just like a cat caught in the headlights. You could see he was standing there going, oh, wow, I'm standing across the octagon from Anderson Silva. And it's like he just couldn't comprehend, and he just didn't get going at all. And he just got teed off on. And I think that has been the big issue for him. I think it's, listen, it sounds like his head is in exactly the right place. And if that is the case, then it could be a tough night at the office for Darren Till. But it's one thing saying it, and it's one thing delivering inside the octagon as well, when actually the lights are on, the cameras are rolling, and you're standing there inside the octagon. When you get hit, it's so easy to revert to type. I think that's why it's important. Till stings him early. I think Till has got to hit Brunson early to force him onto the back foot a little bit, make him take chances, maybe looking for a shot and getting a little bit too keen. And then I think Till can easily go into the ascendancy. Then I think the longer the fight goes without Till hitting him early, I think the more Brunson will get confidence inside the octagon and really start to utilise his game.
It's his 6th main event, Derek Brunson, since he's been in the UFC. This is his 3rd on the spin. And the last one have been behind closed. That could be a factor as well, Mike. Not having the big fans, not having the 20,000 people in the stadium screaming when you're the main attraction, and obviously spending that time in your dressing room getting ready for a fight. You can hear the banging on the roofs and all that type of thing. Maybe that's played into the uprise as well of Derek Brunson.
Absolutely, 100%. And I had a very interesting chat with Tom Aspinall about just that, and we'll get to that when Tom comes out. But yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so different when you're backstage at a big arena with 20,000 people. You're out there. When you're in your locker room, you're getting your hands wrapped. You can hear the oohs and the ahs, the cheers, and somebody gets knocked out and the crowd goes wild, and you sit there, and then somebody comes past you on a stretcher, or they come into your locker room and they're getting all stitched up, and they're like, and the teammates are, oh, you did good, it's not too bad, and they're covered, and they're black and blue, and they're covered in blood, and you think, I'm going out there next, oh my God. And if you're not mentally strong, that stuff can break you. Do you know what I mean? And that is the difference. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you're right. That's actually a good point, Adam. But the thing is, for Brunson, he always has to weather the storm. Even on these 4 or 5 win streak, the first rounds never really go to plan. Against Kevin Holland, again, he almost got dropped. All of them, pretty much. Ian Heinisch almost got finished, but he's got a real uncanny ability of just being able to grab an ankle and get an ankle pick and then turn that into a takedown when he's almost been knocked out. But against Darren Till, he can't afford to make those mistakes, because Darren will take him out of there. Darren's a sniper. He's very, very accurate. He's got fast speed and excellent timing. So for Brunson, and I know obviously he will be working on cleaning those things up, but the last time we saw him, he was still doing that stuff, and all habits die hard. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to it.
We've got a bit of a poll on our social media at the moment, and I'm pretty confident in saying that people that are watching this via BT Sport are very high on Darren Till. I think it's up in the 80-odd%.
All right, next fighter to the scale, competing in the UFC's
them thinking that he's going to win. There you go.
Marc-Andre
86 at the moment. 86% of our viewers believe that Darren Till's going to get the job done in the main event. Don't forget that main card gets underway from 9 p.m. on BT Sport 2. We'll get back to more conversation about that main event in a moment or two. But we've got Mark Barrio coming up onto the scales right now. His opponent has already weighed in. Dalsha was on a little moment or two ago. They're in the middleweight division, these boys both coming off decent victories. He stopped, I think, a 3-fight losing streak. And this will be the second fight that you can get on the prelims after 7 o'clock tomorrow on BT Sport 2. Let's see where he's at.
184 and a
well
half,
under.
the official weight for Marc-Andre Barrio.
Well under Marc-Andre Barrio, but he'll be on tomorrow. He's the first fight of the night, which gets underway from 7 p.m. on BT Sport 2. Gentlemen, back to that main event, if I may. Nick, I know that you've obviously sat down. You went up to the gym and had a little bit of a sit down with Darren. I know that, Mike, you've caught up with him a little bit this week as well. One of the things that we've always spoke about, we kind of spoke about it in our preview show, Nick, was just volume of work when he's actually inside that cage. Mike just pointed out there, he's a sniper. He's a brilliant technical striker. But he seems to have been criticised over his last couple of fights about that. Is that now said? Is he fully aware of that, and he just believes that he's got to do more in order to get the job done in these big fights?
Yeah, he's not daft. He listens to the criticism, and he's more than aware of it as well. And I think he realises, when he watches the Whittaker fight back and part of the Gastelum fight, Darren Till's footwork is incredible, and he makes his opponent work. Even Whittaker came out and said, I don't remember a fight I've ever been in that's been so intense, where I'm constantly thinking he's about to throw a shot and constantly trying to think, is he moving me into position to do this? Is he feinting me to try and pull this out of me? And so he plays that psychological warfare with his footwork and with his feints. But what he doesn't do enough is actual output. What he doesn't do enough is throw enough combinations, maybe, or when he gets an opponent's hit, step in and really go for that finish. Now, that may well be a hangover still from the Jorge Masvidal defeat. If you remember, he stepped in, he dropped Masvidal, and then he kind of stood off a little bit, admiring his work, and then suddenly, boom, out of nowhere, Masvidal threw a shot over the top, and it put him to sleep. First time in his life he'd ever been put to sleep in training or in competition. So that kind of rocked him, as you might imagine, and maybe it's still a little bit of a hangover from there where he's like, I've got him, but I'm not quite committing at this point. But I think what he's realizing is, the Wonder Boy fight was close. The Kelvin Gastelum fight was close. The Whittaker fight was close. I think he realizes now that he's got to be more decisive. He's got to try to use Dana's favorite saying, take it out of the hands of the judges and not only win rounds decisively, but go back to doing what got him in the UFC. He's got an incredible finish record, Darren Till. But since he's been in the UFC, he's actually only finished 2 fights. He needs to go back to the old ruthless Darren and start really pulling the trigger and putting hurt on people.
Is that how you see it, Mike? That he just needs to up the volume?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% he does. Of course, it's easier said than done, though. Like, for example, when I fought Rashad Evans and then I watched the fight back afterwards, I lost by a highly contentious split decision. A lot of people thought I won. But regardless of that, when I watched the fight back, I was like, my God, why didn't I throw more? Why didn't I take that opportunity right there? But then I thought back, said, oh, hold on. I remember, because every time I took a step forward, I could feel the wind of the punches almost take my head off. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's all well and good and easy to sit there when you watch it back and go, man, I should have put on more pressure. But when you're in there, the reality, the cold reality, that you might have got knocked out if you went forward, and you do have those demons. And as Nick said, that Masvidal thing, there may still be some psychological demons or some skeletons in the closet from that. When you get put to sleep like that, it takes a long time to get over it. And even though Darren says he's over it, I'm sure he does say that, he probably doesn't even realize himself. You know what I mean? It takes a long time. You really got to get your groove back. Now, it has been a while. It's been over 2 years. So I'm assuming that, he has eradicated those demons, shall we say. But they're always still there. And anytime you start getting clipped in a fight, then, then that self-doubt starts to creep in. As I say, again, it all comes back to this, all comes back to the mind. But volume is exactly what it is. Because in a close fight, in a very, very close fight, it comes down to volume. It comes down to who landed the most. You know what I mean? And if the other guy is just flicking his jab out there or just chipping away with little low kicks, very, very low risk maneuvers, if they're busier and it's a close fight, the busier guy is going to take the fight.
There you go. That's your main event. Brunson versus Till. It's going to be an absolute cracker at a friendly time for the audience as well. And it's not just about that. If you're into MMA, we have got a plethora of fantastic talent to get stuck into. The only one that we're waiting for, by the way, on the way in is the heavyweight in Tom Aspinall. There are some other fighters, of course, to go through, but all the Brits have come through in their own weight in the back, enjoying themselves and rehydrating and getting ready for bringing you some serious action here on BT Sport 2. And one fighter that I wanted to speak about quite a bit on this particular show, gentlemen, is Molly McCann. Nick, again, you spent a little bit of time with Molly, and I know that you have as well this week, Mike. She's at the top of the prelims, taking on Ji Yong Kim in that flyweight contest. Both girls coming off the back of losses. But if we can concentrate on Molly for a second, Nick, where is she at this moment? Because we saw her in the defeat earlier on in the year when she left the gloves in the centre of the octagon in tribute to her dad. And we know that she's been doing some fantastic work outside of the octagon. Where's she at now as a mixed martial artist?
Obviously, I think she's a lot further forward than where she once was, certainly when she joined the UFC. And I think you need to realise that, compared to with Molly, she'd gone as far as she can on domestic scene. They couldn't match her up any better on Cage Warriors. She became the Cage Warriors champion, and they basically couldn't get the caliber of opponents across the UK and into Europe that would continue her progress. And as what happens with women's MMA, you make the jump to the UFC then, and it's a different, obviously you're fighting women from all over the world. The standard is so much higher. So you're always going to have this win-loss record early on, especially when you're quite early in your career like Molly is or was when she first joined. Different for somebody like Paddy, who's in such a deep division globally that he's able to run up a 20-odd fight record and then progress to the UFC and then hopefully go on some kind of win and run. I think that's just the way women's MMA is. And I think Molly has realised that, took that on board and said, okay, I've learned. I've had a couple of learning fights, if you like. Losses are learns. And I've got to learn from it. And what she did was originally she tried to redesign herself and become an all-round mixed martial artist and more of a grappler. But what she's done is gone, you know what, I've done that work. I've got that in my locker now, but I don't need to be submitting people. I don't need to be wrestling people. I've got that defensively. What I've got and my strength is my punching, my aggressiveness, my warrior spirit. So she's promising to go back to that this weekend. If she needs to wrestle, she needs to grapple. If she needs the jiu-jitsu defense, boom, it's there. It's in the locker. But she hasn't got to show it to the world. What she's got to show the world is what got Meatball here in the first place. She's a wild berserker. She turns up. She leaves it all in the octagon. And I think that's exactly what she does Saturday night.
I think that's key, isn't it, Mike? Because we come across so many, not just mixed martial artists, but fighters in general, whether they're in boxing and what have you, who do try to evolve. And that's a good thing, of course. You want to develop your game. You want to get better at things that you're not necessarily brilliant at. But you haven't to forget the thing that you are brilliant at. And I think there is that full circle, isn't there? When you go on this journey and you're trying to learn X, Y, and Z, you do seem to always come back to the thing that got you to the dance in the first place. And it's good to hear that Molly McCann realises that. And hopefully on Saturday night, we're going to get special.
Yeah, it's just so difficult because mixed martial arts is such a complicated sport. So many different styles to master. And then when you start getting caught out in one thing, it amplifies in your mind and you think, oh my God, my wrestling sucks or my jiu-jitsu sucks. And I want to be in the UFC and I want to be the champion. And if I don't get better at these things, that's never going to happen. And it's such a mental trip sorry to bring it back to the mind again, but that's how it is. And as Nick said and you said, she has come full circle. And you do have to remember what your talents are. You have to fight your fight. She said in that last fight against Procopio, she got that armbar, I think it was round 2 maybe or 1, but she put everything in it trying to get the finish. And rightly so, because it was a deep armbar. But she said after that, she was kind of gassed. She made a mistake, but it's just experience. And again, a brilliant point, Nick, about the women's mixed martial arts, because they do get signed to the UFC a lot sooner than what the men do, because there's just not as many ladies on the circuit. So therefore, they need the talent in the UFC. She got to the UFC at 7-1, which by female standards, and as no disrespect, isn't bad. Isn't bad. You see now sometimes it's 3 or 4 fights and they're in the UFC. But as you said, Paddy's had over 20 odd. Do you know what I mean? It's all experience, and you are learning on the job in the toughest sport in the world, in the biggest spectacle or the most eyeballs on you. So it's an incredibly tough position. But, I was talking to her and she said, you might have saw it, she put on Twitter or something that her mum said, we're cut from a different cloth. Okay, you've got me inside, you're successful at the weekend. So I asked her to expand on that. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, my mother was she's a recovered drug addict. She had addiction problems for over 23 years. So she went through adversity her entire life. And obviously Molly's been around that. She's seen that. And obviously cut from the same cloth and built from the same DNA. And she's great, isn't she? I mean, anytime when Molly walked out the other day, she just lit up the room. She's absolutely amazing. She's doing a lot of work for the LGBTQ community as well. She's a bit of a hero in that regard. She had that great book. How do you not love Molly McCann? I mean, she's absolutely sensational. And when she does fight her kind of fight, she's a lot of fun to watch. She goes forward. She swings beautiful combinations. She's got great boxing. And even though she wants to get away from it, she's got some blooming good double legs as well.
Nick, is she, as we can see on screen there, Dean's asking the question, and it is a fully interactive show, which is ours. So if you've got any questions, chuck them up. We'll throw them up on the screen. You can see what Dean's asking there, Mike. Is Molly McCann fighting for a UFC career tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this a little bit before. I don't know. The problem is being the last fight on her contract. Obviously, they need to look at that. And the fact, oh God, I hate to say it, I just had a realization. Typically, they don't let you fight. It's not they don't let you fight, but if they want to sign you, they sign you when you still got 1 fight left on your contract. You know what I'm saying? So then the fact if she loses this and she's out of contract, that's not a good sign. I'm not saying that's a definitive. It doesn't mean she's not going to get signed. Generally, typically, the way and historically, the way it's done is that you sign before where you still got 1 fight left on your contract. Because if the UFC want to keep you, you can't go then out to the open market and maybe go to another organization. You see what I'm saying? It's just smart business practice if you want to keep hold of that said fighter. So the fact that she's fighting this out, I was going to say no. But after that realization that I just had, there is a potential. So she really needs, and I hate to say it, she is under pressure. She actually said all the pressure's on Darren Till, because the spotlight's on them more. But there is personal pressure for Molly. She's got to go out there and win. Now, listen, against Ji Yeon Kim, I think she's got a really good shot. She's a tough lady. She's a big lady. She had a good performance against, I think it was Nadia Kassem. She knocked her out. But she's slow. And I say that with respect. She's when she throws the strikes, she looks like she's throwing them underwater. But they do connect. So she's obviously got very good timing. But Molly's way faster. She's got way faster hands. So it is a favorable matchup. But to answer the question, I went round the bloody court there, round the course. Yeah, she needs to win this fight if she wants to stay in the UFC, I would say.
Just finally on this one, Nick, the positive for her in this camp, I know that it's been similar for a lot of fighters in certain countries, but specifically in the UK, over the last 18 months with the pandemic, you've not been able to do the training that you would necessarily normally do, get in the sparring and what have you. This time we're able to replicate her opponent. So she's been able to train for that taller, longer opponent. So she should be fully well prepared, ready to rock and roll tomorrow.
Yeah, she's known what to expect for some time, and she knows this girl's long and she knows this girl likes to fight. The chances of this going to the ground are quite slim. I think Kim, like Molly, likes it on the feet, and that's where Molly can do her best work. And listen, she knows what's at stake. Every time her back has been against the wall, every time people have said she's in trouble, every time people have, ranked her as the big underdog, she steps up and she delivers. And I think that's one thing you can always guarantee from Molly McCann. She always steps up. She always delivers. If she is Molly tomorrow, if she does what Molly does best, then win, lose or draw, I think she'll hopefully extend her UFC contract because she's an entertaining fighter and she does great things for the sport, both inside and outside the octagon. And incidentally, she just texted me about 2 minutes ago saying the six-pack's gone already. So there you go. She was obviously watching the show. Brilliant. I told you, poor Molly, one mouthful of water and it just goes back on her. Poor Molly.
Brutal.
Those
brutal.
meatballs.
That's it, man. Them subways, yeah. If you are just joining us, wherever you are in the world watching our official weighing show here on BT Sport, we're waiting for Martinez and Molly's opponent, Kim, from the prelims to weigh in. Everybody else has come through on those prelims. Nobody's missed weight as of yet. Alex Moreno on the main card, who's taking on David Zawada. We're still waiting for him. And the two heavyweights, who were just taking the mick out of us, aren't they? Aspinall and Spivak. We're still waiting for those boys to come through, as we are Derek, which is interesting. We're still waiting for Derek Brunson to come through. Till was first on the scale. He's come through all good, as have the rest of the Brits on this card. So if you're just joining us late, that's the current state of play. Gents, I'm just going to jump off this card for a split second and just go into some general UFC news and some matches that have been made or rumoured to have been made for the upcoming months. We spoke about it for some time. We knew that it was coming, but verbally agreed now. Dustin Poirier is stepping up to take on Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship of the world. UFC 269 is the rumoured date for that, which will be December the 11th. Mike, as we look at that, it is the fight to make. Let's be straight. This is the fight that everybody wanted. What a fight to finish off the year.
Yeah, come on, listen, there was talk of Poirier fighting Nate Diaz. There was talk of Poirier fighting, I don't know, anyone but Charles Oliveira. The fourth fight with McGregor isn't going to happen. And if you're Conor McGregor, you definitely don't want to come off a year layoff with a broken leg to fight the guy that's just not twice in a row. Well, once in a row and another time did a number on you. This is the fight to make. It's absolutely logical, and what a terrific fight this is. For Charles Oliveira, hopefully with Dustin now beating Conor in succession, fighting Khabib. I mean, he was a big star anyway, but that star will have grown massively, So for Charles Oliveira, he's going to get a big payday coming into this one. And I'm very, very happy for him because he deserves it, because he's a man that's been around forever. He's got the most submissions in the UFC, in the history of the sport in the UFC. He got great knockout power, just knocked out Chandler as well, as we saw. We all know about Dustin Poirier. He's the man. So yeah, what a fight. And the undercard as well is phenomenal.
If we could call it that, man. I mean, we got Nunes and Pena as the co-main event, which is a sensational fight as well for Amanda Nunes. And as you said, you look a little bit further down there, there's some unbelievable fights to get stuck into. Just a quick one on Poirier, Nick. Does he need this one for his legacy? I know he's been interim champion before, but when he did step up to unify the division against Khabib, he fell short. And that's not, listen, I'm not throwing shade on that because most people fall short against Khabib Nurmagomedov. But from a Poirier point of view, just to secure that legacy, does he need this one to be classed as the full lightweight champ?
Yeah, of course he does. his legacy reads one thing.
All right, next fighter to
Multi-millionaire.
the scale, competing
the guy who
live on
ended
the main
Conor
card
McGregor.
on ESPN Plus here tomorrow in the UFC's welterweight division, Alex Morono.
And I think, for Dustin Poirier, he doesn't want to just be known as the guy who retired Conor McGregor, and hopefully Conor comes back and he eat those words. But right now, he's the guy who retired Conor. He wants to go down as the former UFC champion of the world. Of course he does. Interim belts don't mean anything.
170 and a half,
You're
the
either
official
full
weight
champ
for
or you're
Alex
nothing at all.
Morono.
I think Dustin knows that. Dustin needs it on his legacy. He needs to beat Oliveira. He could have fought for the belt, but instead he chose to fight Conor in a rematch. That was obviously the thing to do with the finances involved. But now he's got to go and take care of business. I think a lot of people still believe Dustin Poirier is the number 155 pounds on the planet. In December, he's going to have to prove it.
Mike, it's worked out quite well for Dustin, hasn't it? Because he's gone away, he's done the big money fight, he's made himself a few million quid, and he still gets the opportunity to go and fight for UFC gold by the end of the year. Could be a sensational 2021 for the Diamond.
Yeah, listen, I spoke to Dustin after the Khabib fight. I was on a bus. I think I was commentating somewhere. And then at the end of it, I saw Dustin. I said, hey, hard lines against Khabib, mate. Unlucky, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, no, listen, you're right. Thank you very much. But I ain't giving up. My quest, my goal, my number one goal is to become the champion of the world. So that burns brightly. And as you say, Nick, interim titles aren't worth the leather they're printed on, if you ask me. I mean, God bless him. It's good for the fans and it makes a solid, defined number one contender. And in terms for those guys' monetary value, they both earn more money because they're both champions. They both get a cut to the pay-per-view. That's it. You're not a champion. And when you become, no offense to Israel Adesanya, when you become the champ, that's not your first defense, right? Okay, just throwing that out there because he likes to claim when he beat Anderson, he became the champ and the next one made him the real champ. No, that's not how it works. So for Dustin, going back to your earlier question, yeah, of course, becoming the champion is what he wants to do. It burns brightly within him. But still, yeah, it's worked out perfect. I mean, come on, he beats Conor, right? He fights him again, makes tons of money, I'm sure. I have heard what he earned for that, and it was a significant amount of money. It was big. It was a lot of money. And that is why we do it, okay? So the money's great, but still, when you're retired, it's the legacy. You want to be remembered and you want to be the champion. It happened to me at the end of my career, and I'm so glad because it vindicated and validated all that hard work, all that sacrifice. Yeah, the money's great, but when you can sit back, because we have pride. Of course, we do it for the money, but we also believe we're the best blooming fighters out there. That's why we do it. That's why we have the courage to step in the octagon and fight another man almost naked in front of the entire world. You want to say that you're the best. And if he can go out there and beat Charles Oliveira, he can say without a question, he can put the undisputed championship belt next to the interim championship belt. And no doubt shortly after that, he'll pick up a Hall of Fame statue as well. And there it is. Job done. Millions in the bank. He lives in Louisiana, so that's like having $1 billion in the bank because it's cheap as chips down there, and he's got all the belts. What more do you want?
And he's got the best hot sauce in the world, man. He's flying, you know what I mean? He's doing
there you go.
I'll tell you what, maybe there's two things that come out of that conversation. You just referring to fighting somebody half naked just that sent me off on this weird tangent in my head. Thank you very much for that. And whenever you mention interim titles, all I see is you bursting into the octagon and whizzing Robert Whittaker's interim title on the floor. Mate. That's all I see. That's all I see.
And Robert's a top lad as well. I love Robert. He's awesome. But do you know what I mean? Like, so he beats Yoel Romero. He gets given an interim title belt, right? And he's got it on. And they want me to come in the cage and to hype the fight, right? And I'm like, yeah. I'll play it cool. I even said to the people at Fox Sports that we were working with at the time, I said, yeah, I'm going to play it cool. Robert's a good lad. I'll keep it all nice and cordial and say, I'll see you whenever. But I walked in. And when I walked, he's standing there and Rogan's next to him. He's been interviewing him and he's got a shiny belt around his waist and he's looking all buff because he's just done 25 minutes with Yoel Romero. He's got blood strip in his face and he's looking at me and I'm thinking, this guy thinks he's hard, doesn't he? And then I just went, everything went out the window. I just saw red. I'm like, he's standing there with my belt on. I mean, that belt, blah, 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 blah. And then for some reason, I grab the other belt and I throw it on the floor and walk out the octagon. I'm like, what am I doing? I didn't even know what I was doing. A bit of a fool out of myself, but still, it made for a viral moment.
Mate, all good times. Oh, absolutely, mate. You knew how to cut a promo. Let's whilst we're waiting for people to hit the scales, we've mentioned Conor a couple of times there, Nick. this week, back and forth on social media. I know he's in rehab at the moment and getting himself straight and getting his legs sorted. But this week on social media, he's been back and forth with Nate Diaz. It does seem, let's be straight, if he is to make a return to the octagon at some point, if that is to be the case, this seems to be the fight. Nate Diaz Part 3.
100% it's the fight. The problem with Conor is that, when was the last time he had his arm raised? In a true fight, in a true test, and he's just hobbling into the octagon after one injury or one layoff after another. And Nate Diaz is absolutely no joke, as he proved in their first fight. So be careful what you wish for Conor. The problem with Conor is he can't really come back any lower than Nate Diaz, because he could lose to somebody outside the top 15, the way his body's letting him down at the moment. So there is only main event. There is only top caliber opposition. Nate Diaz seems perfect for him, but right now, Conor just needs to rehab properly and recover properly and reassess what went wrong in the Poirier fight. I think it'd be the most dangerous thing in the world to hide behind a freak injury. And it was a freak injury, but to hide behind that and ignore what actually happened in the fight before the injury, I think would be very, very stupid on Conor's behalf. I think he needs to look at everything that is going on in his personal life, his private life, his professional life. Is he applying himself the way he should be? It's difficult, man. The guy's hugely successful as an athlete and as a businessman. Why does he need this? Why is he doing it? These are the questions he needs to ask himself. Go soul search, and only Conor knows the answer. And I think if he can answer those questions and can turn back the clock, then why not? But I think there's a long, long road to go before Conor McGregor should even be thinking about climbing back inside an octagon.
Sorry, Mike, I thought you wanted in. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I did. But be all unprofessional and clash and talk over one another. But I thought you'd tee me up like the good dance partner you are, Adam. So thank you. No, you're absolutely right. And the big question is, listen, it's what you do in between fights, whether you're injured or whether you're perfectly healthy. How do you treat your body? That is the machine that you're taking in the octagon. Conor's got a bit of he likes to enjoy himself. So for this next 12 months, because it's going to be about 12 months, let's be honest, what is he going to do? And then we see him in there lifting weights a little bit. There's one thing to be lifting weights. I lift weights every day. I couldn't do bloody 5 rounds in the octagon right now. Do you know what I mean? I could in a few weeks, though. Don't get it twisted. But is he going to look he's going to look after himself for the next 12 months? And as Nick said, he can't really go much lower than Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz beat him in the first fight. Second fight was raised close. Conor got his hand raised, but it was very close. And as you say, you don't want to go much lower than that, because the really is. Of course, you had Khabib at the top, who was an outlier. You've got Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division, that's an outlier. But below that, the skill level's still there. They're not all chumps. They're not walks in the park. And that's the hard part about becoming a champion. The hard part is clawing your way up, fighting your way up, winning fights. Because all those other people, they're just as hungry as you are. Everybody wants to be the champion of the world, right? And they're all scratching and clawing and trying to get that success and trying to get up. The hard part is establishing yourself as the number one contender and then going out there and winning the belt. Now, for Conor, because of his success at 145, he breezed right into that. He got a title fight and he capitalized on that. He looked sensational. Best performance of his life against Eddie Alvarez. He looked incredible, but he didn't have to go the long way. He took the shortcut. So what is he going to do now? He ain't going to fight these dangerous people. He can't go in there against a Beneil Dariush. If it isn't Nate Diaz, the only logical matchup, and we spoke about this a few shows ago, would be Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson would also be a very winnable fight for him. Outside of that, I'm not too sure where he goes.
And in the interim, as Mike just says, that it's going to be some time before he's fully fit and ready to rock and roll. In the interim, you've got Nate Diaz then talking about fights with Vicente Luque, Nick. The guy he just loves it, doesn't he? He just loves a fight with absolute killers. Who's the hardest guy? Who's on the win streak at the moment? Who's putting people away? Go on then, I'll have a bit of a roll with him. Absolute lunatic if they pull that off by the end of the year.
That'd be absolutely mental, but that's just Nate all over it. That's just Nate and Nick. They define the scrap pack for a reason. They'll literally fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, as long as they're sober enough to compete. We often lose them for a year or two in a haze of smoke, but when they do re-emerge, they'll fight anybody, and that's why they're absolutely beloved the world over.
But there's a but. But you got to win. You got to win fights. It's all well and good. Well, I'll fight anyone, me. All right,
it's fine.
Anyone. Line him up. I'll have a go. It's no good when you're getting your bloody backside whooped every time you go out there. You just lost to Leon. Oh, give me Vicente Luque. I'll lose that one as well. Oh, he's well hard in. He'll fight anyone. You want to win. It's called sport. It's a sport. At the end of the day, you lose, go home, reassess, get better. Simple as that. Ooh, let's give him credit. He'll fight anyone, but he'll get his ass kicked at the same time. No good. No good.
Good point. Good point.
Nah, I love it. Get Nate in. Get him in there.
Get him in. 100%. I'll watch. I'll buy the pay-per-view. Will he win? I don't know. I do like him, though. I do respect him, and I do watch him fight, and I'll buy the pay-per-views. Sorry, Adam.
No, mate. Listen, it's a fully interactive show. Loads of people are contributing and getting involved with questions and what have you. We can see we've got Let's Talk Fights podcast. Listen, the regular contributors to our show. Guys, this is a good one. With more and more UK fighters in the UFC, who is most likely to be the next UK-born champ? Nick, you could go first on that, mate. Go on. What are you thinking?
Well, listen, you know my thoughts on this.
You know what I always say.
Does he have a sculpture Chancellor?
Times are hard and contenders are few.
There it is. It's there, baby. There it is on the screen.
Darren Till, the stage is set for you.
Hey, listen, on that note, and I'm sorry to interject, but we spoke about this on the pre-show for this, didn't we? And we all made very, very valid points. Now, if you look at the comment section, which I was doing yesterday, I sat on the old, I was just sitting down, shall we say, pants around my ankles, make of that what you will. and I'm reading the comments, and everyone's like, the bias.
That's a totally different image.
But still, dropping kids off at pool. And I'm reading the comments and they're all, these guys are all incredibly biased just because he's English and all the rest of it. It's like, no, you obviously didn't listen to the fair reasoning that we had. You know what I mean? They're all incredibly close fights. Of course, we know Darren has lost fights. Of course. But if he beats Brunson, who's on a win streak,
Brunson.
And the fact that he needs contenders, then it's there. But here he is. He's Darren's man.
We'll pick that up again in a minute because it's a great question. Here's Derek Brunson. 186.
Official weight 186 pounds for Derek Brunson. Your UFC Fight Night main event is official.
I want his lat exercise. His lats are unbelievable. Have you seen the size of that back? It is unbelievable. There you go. Derek Brunson coming through, completing that main event against Darren Till. But Mike, you make a valid point. With the way that the landscape of the middleweight division is all laid out, nobody's really putting their hand up behind Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker's next in line for Israel Adesanya. We know that. But where's the guy? Let's say one of these guys at the weekend, Darren Till, does something spectacular and stops Derek Brunson, who's on a 4-fight win streak. All of a sudden, the noise is there because he's got the personality. He's got everything around the fight. He's just got to have that signature moment which captures the imagination of everybody. And this could be it at the weekend. So I think you're fully right to say it could be him.
And of course, it sounds like we're doing a disservice to Derek Brunson. If Derek Brunson goes out there and wins, I don't believe he gets a title shot. And people are going to think, oh, you're being biased because he's English again. No, the reason being is that Derek fought Israel before and it did not go well. He got his backside whooped and convincingly he got finished. So Israel needs new challenges. So if Darren does the right thing this week and he gets the job, the right thing on the microphone, which we know he will, then he'll have to fight the winner of Israel and Robert. And you never know. It could be a rematch with Robert Whittaker. If Brunson wins, he's going to fight Jared Cannonier, right? Because Cannonier's right there as well. He's a silent one. We're not talking about him, but Cannonier's doing good. Just beat Gastelum. He's on a good streak. And as I say, if Brunson wins, I think in the interim, we're going to see Brunson, Cannonier, winner of that fights the winner of Whittaker and Adesanya, let's say Adesanya. And if Darren Till goes out there and gets a finish and he's happy to wait on the sidelines until he can have that shot, there's a very good possibility that that's what we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know where you're both at with this. I think we're going to see over the next 12 months to 18 months, I think we're going to see quite a few Brits with title opportunities. Whether they win those title opportunities or not, I don't know, because at welterweight, we've got an absolute killer, haven't we, in Kamaru Usman, who seems to have mopped this division up. He's already beaten Leon Edwards, but I think an opportunity will come for Leon Edwards to fight for a title there. You've just mentioned Darren. I think because Israel wants it, there will be an opportunity that comes his way. If you were to say to me, I think we've got somebody. Have we got somebody waiting? I don't want to. I'll commit to it. If you were to say to me who is going to be the next British-born UFC champion, I would probably go down the route of Tom Aspinall. I think it's going to be a little bit of time before we get there, gents. I really do, just because of the depth that the immediate crop of talent is facing within the next 12 to 18 months. I don't know how you feel about that, Mike.
I kind of agree. You know, I mean, listen, never mind Darren. If he wins this weekend, great. And there's a potential. There's a potential. We don't know it for a fact. But outside of Darren, I mean, there's Arnold Allen. But again, even though he's tremendous, he's got the Leon Edwards syndrome. You know what I mean? No one's talking about him. Leon Edwards is right there, but he just, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon either. And he's got Kamaru Usman to go through even if he does get the title shot. And Kamaru Usman is just getting better and better. You know, he's pound for pound one of the greats, top 3 for sure in the sport right now. Tom Aspinall, as you say, it'll be a little bit of time, but he's right there. I mean, he's got a tough fight this weekend, but he had a really good assessment because Sergey Pavlovich that he was fighting was a knockout artist. Only person to beat him in the UFC was Alistair Overeem. This guy, Sergey Spivak, isn't as dangerous. I said to Tom, what's the tougher fight? And he said, Sergey Spivak isn't as dangerous on the feet, but he's more well-rounded. You know, if you look at what Spivak did to Taito Avasa, he used all his grappling. He's got many different ways. Sometimes he strikes, sometimes he grapples, so it's a more well-rounded threat. But I do firmly believe, that it's a good stylistic matchup for Tom Aspinall. And then from there, if he wins that, it's going to be ranked opponents. It's going to be big names. And from what I've seen of Tom so far, he's got a very, very good chance of bypassing everybody else. So, I agree, Adam.
Nick, just on Tom, because I know you spent a lot of time with him and you were high on him
to the scale
as he made his way to the UFC. I'll pick this up in a minute.
In the UFC flyweight division, Ji-Yeon Kim.
Here we go. Here we go. Molly McCann's opponent, Ji-Yeon Kim, making her way to the scales right now. Molly came through a little earlier on, just in case she's just joining us. Molly's already rehydrating. I think she was 6th on the scale earlier on. But here's her opponent, Ji-Yeon Kim.
You can see the height difference already. Kim's about 4 or 5 inches taller than Molly. She's got like a 10-inch reach advantage or something bonkers like that as well.
126, the official weight for Ji-Yeon Kim.
That's crazy.
But again, Molly's had that an entire career, so, she knows what to expect. She knows she's got to get in on this girl.
I got to say, this girl, Kim, she's a lovely girl. I was at the PI having a workout, a couple of months ago, and she was there with the manager. And lovely personality on her. Very, very nice girl. She came over, she was having a bit of fun with me, saying, "Oh, you're the enemy, you're friends with Molly," and all the rest of it. But just, a bit of banter. She was great. So I'm expecting a good fight. May the best lady win. But 10 inches, Adam, Nick, I never realized that. I mean, man, she knows how to use that. It's going to make it tough for Molly, but I'm sure, Molly's often at a reach deficit. She knows what to do.
Yeah. We've had an hour of the official weigh-ins. All the Brits bar Tom Aspinall has come through. It's always typical when you've got heavyweights on a card like this. They always keep you waiting, don't they? Him and his opponent Spivak haven't come through as of yet off that main card. Everybody else has. So everybody on the main card has come through. They've all made weight. The only person on the prelims that we're waiting for is Jonathan Martinez, who kicks off the prelims against Marcelo Rojo. Keep your questions coming in via our social media feeds. We've been speaking about Tom Aspinall quite a lot, and Mike just brought up a good point regarding the matchup this weekend. Obviously, he was training for Pavlovich, which would have been more of a fight that played out on the feet, you would have thought, Nick. Spivak is a guy that does like it on the deck, and I know that I've had conversations with Tom about this, and I know that you have as well. Tom's actually looking forward to get involved in those grappling exchanges, to get involved in a situation where he can submit somebody off his back. He's a bit of a sick man. He wants to put himself in a bit of danger, early doors, and then show his grappling capabilities, because you automatically think when you're thinking heavyweights, it's just heavy hands. This guy's probably the most rounded finisher in the heavyweight division, Tom Aspinall.
He could be, he's very early into his career, but he's certainly, as you say, he's so well rounded. His dad's his jiu-jitsu coach. His dad runs Aspinall BJJ in their hometown. He's a black belt, Andy, and a really nice guy. And obviously, him and Tom he's basically shaped Tom. Himself being a lifetime martial artist, he's had Tom rolling since he was a baby, and then obviously later on in life he introduced him to boxing. He became Tyson Fury's sparring partner, and he became a member of Team Cowbon, training with Colin Heron, where he met Till and all this kind of stuff. So he's not like Cyril Gane, who's come to, or Ngannou, who's come to the sport late on and who's a bit of a freak athlete that's been shaped into a fighter. Tom Aspinall has been a fighter since he was a baby. His dad has made him that way. He's a career martial artist. So I think what we haven't seen yet, because of the level of competition, is Tom's ground game, because he hasn't had to show it. And I think that's where Spivak might get caught out this weekend a little bit, because, listen, of course he'll have done his homework, but this is a fight that Tom asked for last year, the Spivak fight, and for whatever reason it fell off then. So when Spivak came in late notice to replace Pavlovich, there was already probably a game plan in the head of Tom Aspinall, his dad, and Colin Heron anyway. So I think Spivak might look at the record and go, okay, I'll take this guy down. Well, good luck, because Tom's a black belt and he's a black belt for a reason. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I would love to see that side of it. Like many fans, you want to tick all the boxes, don't you? When you've got a hot contender, when you've got a prospect of this, which we're all so excited about. You've seen him starch people. You've seen him move his feet and throw combinations and go, woohoo! That's interesting for the heavyweight. It would be nice to see him taken down, transition, find a submission, just to tick that little box so you can go, okay, wow, we know it's there. I've seen him do it in the gym. His career, his life has led to this point, and he's got his black belt and everything else. But actually seeing it inside the octagon, ticking that box, will just give the rest of the heavyweight division, everyone ranked above him, something else to think about as well. So, yeah, it would be nice, but more than anything, I just want to see the finish, man.
Yeah, his submission against Arlovsky was something special, but you want to see him throw something up that's a little bit crazy and give us something really to chat about. Just Mike, I want to talk about actually the transition of fighting those 15-minute fights, because Tom's talked about this. When he speaks about experience, he wants to experience, obviously, first of all, fighting in front of a crowd, which he's not done in the UFC. Everything's been behind closed doors so far, and also the preparation for going into those main events and preparing for the 25-minute fights. When you were going through your career, and obviously you were moving up the card and you were becoming the main event, how big of a thing is that, mentally preparing for those moments to get yourself ready for the biggest of shows?
Well, it's more the physical side, to be honest. Because everything you're doing, the work rate is almost twice as much. You know what I mean? You got to get ready for 3 rounds. You got to get ready for 5. I mean, it's almost twice as many rounds. So everything is just so much tougher on the body, but of course on the mind as well. Because are you willing to go there? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to do that extra rounds? Do the extra 2 miles? Do the extra 3 or 4 rounds of sparring? And it is a drag, and it's also hard on the body, because they always say, going in there and fighting is kind of the easy part. The hard part is getting through the training camp. And when you're going 5 rounds, not 3, the wear and tear on the body is far more significant, So the chance of getting injured is way higher. And you touched on something just there about fighting in front of a crowd that Tom was telling me about the other day. He said, as you mentioned, he hasn't fought in front of a crowd yet, and he doesn't know if he can do that. He's very intrigued to see how his mind is going to live up to that and handle that. He said, I've only ever probably in front of 1,000 people tops, maybe 1,500 people. I was excited to fight in London because I wanted to walk out there in front of 20,000 people and see how I cope with that. Because he said he suffers from pre-fight anxiety. He said he feels that fear, and a lot of fighters do, and the real fighters do. Most people, they always get scared, and if they say they don't, they're either a liar or they're stupid. Because when you walk out there and you're in that octagon, anything can happen. Fear is one word. Another word is adrenaline. That adrenaline, you can handle it, and it can be your best friend. It can make you fast. It can make your instinct sharp. The sprawl, you do it right on time. Extra little power in the shots. Or it can make you crumble, make you clam up, make you not throw, and make you not believe in yourself. So it was really, really interesting what Tom was saying. And in fact, our producer, Mike Ricci from the UFC, he chimed in afterwards. He said, wow, what is Tom, like 26 or 28? He said, wow, he's for age one of the most self self-aware heavyweights I've ever seen in my life. So, of course, he's got all the skills, as we've just been talking about, but he's also a very smart young man as well.
Yeah, he is. I think he's got the whole package. It's going to be an entertaining ride, let's say, with Tom Aspinall in the UFC. Question coming in there from Hub on our Twitter page, it looks like. What does Bisping think of Paddy the Baddie? He's going to love him, man. Come on. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome. He's great. He's great. I wasn't too sure because, like typical Scousers opening their mouth back in the day and chatting a bit of nonsense about me. But I'll give him a pass. He's only jealous, bless him. No, he's doing the right things, man. I love it. I love his confidence. I love his approach to it. Obviously, he's got all the skills in the world. So I love that side of it. But what I'm talking about is how he's come out here this week. And yeah, he came in with a lot of hype. But so far, he's living up to that hype. He is stealing a lot of headlines. We are seeing the UFC talking about him on Twitter, and a lot of fans are now starting to feel the excitement over here stateside as well. So many people, like my WhatsApp group this morning, not my WhatsApp group, but my WhatsApp, I had about 3 different messages asking about Paddy, saying, is this guy for real? Yada, yada, yada. These are all American. Probably say Tuesday this week had never heard of Paddy the Baddie. And some of them are saying, wow, this guy looks awesome. And some of them are saying, I can't stand Paddy Pimblett. But that's what you want. You want to evoke those strong emotions. You don't want to walk out there and people are just, oh yeah, polite golf clap. No, you want energy. You want passion. You want people going, yes, I love this guy. Or people going, boo, I hope this guy gets knocked out. Because that all translates to excitement, to pay-per-view sales, to cash in your bank at the end of the day. Yeah. And that's why we all do it. So yeah, Paddy's doing the right thing, man. Putting a lot of pressure on himself. And I know I'm going on here, putting a lot of pressure on himself. Even in the UFC meetings, he swanned in, spoke about it like it was his organization. Oh, I'm going to take over. No problem, lads. He was going on and on and on. Very, very confident. And if he pulls it off, it's going to be majestic. But if he gets it wrong, he's going to fall flat on his face very hard. So he puts pressure on himself. But whenever you see someone do that, normally it's for a reason. And the last point before I shut up, I said to him, and I did think about whether or not I say this to him because it might rattle him a little bit. But I said, Paddy, with respect, mate, I said, I've sat here many times and people that sign with the UFC, they walk in here and they're full of bravado and they're full of confidence and they say they're going to take over the sport. And I've had people say outlandish things to us many, many times. I said, and they go out there and they get bingoed first round because they realize it's a step up in competition. I said, what do you say to that? And anyway, he said the right things. I don't need to repeat it. You can imagine what he said. He said, lad, I'm different, and so on and so forth. And I think he is, to be quite frank. Okay, I'll take a breath.
I think the one thing he's most certainly not is vanilla. Fans are either going to love him or hate him, which I think is a good thing, as Mike out there, Nick. And one of the things that I've been impressed with over the last 2 to 3 years in particular is that he seems to, I think maturity is the right word to use here. He seems to have grown up, not only physically, as we've seen, he looks at fantastic shape on the scales a little earlier on, but also an understanding of who he is as a martial artist. For a period of time in Cage Warriors, he fell in love with his hands, didn't he, a little bit, and he tried to trade with the others. Whereas now I think he fully understands what his game is, what his strengths are. Very similar to what we were saying about Molly earlier on, what his strengths are, and he's ready now. Because let's be honest, he's turned down the UFC on a couple of occasions. Wasn't ready. Now he is ready, and he's ready to show what he's all about.
Yeah, more than anything, there was a stage there as well. After UFC Liverpool, which was a massive opportunity for him, they tried to sign him then when they did sign Molly, of course, and he turned it down. And then not long after that, he broke his hand and was out of competition for the best part of a year, and really went into a dark place, and wasn't really training at the gym anymore. Didn't really see a point anymore. He did a lot of soul searching at that point in time. And then he did come back. Got a couple of wins, had some more issues outside the octagon, left the gym briefly, was based at a boxing gym in Liverpool. He was forced to grow up pretty quickly, pretty fast, whether he liked it or not. And then what's emerged is a man now. He's grown up, he's mature, he takes responsibility for his own actions. This is a kid that used to eat McDonald's morning, noon, and night in and around his training sessions. Now he's got a full-time coach that literally measures everything that passes his lips, that measures every training session, every sleep session. He's taking this thing seriously, but he's still got what made him attractive to fans. He's still got that Paddy Pimblett kind of attitude, that swag, that bravado, that really does appeal. And I'm, not to go over all ground here, but I've been covering fight sports for over 20 years, and I've never, ever been to an event, boxing, MMA, doesn't matter, with the demographic of fans that Paddy Pimblett attracts. When you go to an event that's got Paddy Pimblett on, this makes it even worse that we're not in London. It's not, mostly lads in their 20s and 30s or gaggles of girls, which we get at the UFC. Far more couples and far more female crossover at MMA and UFC, as we know, compared to boxing, for instance. But with Paddy, the demographic drops about 20 years. You've got 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds there with their mums and dads in homemade Paddy the Baddy t-shirts.
All right, next
it's
athlete
incredible.
to the scale, one
it's
half
like
of our
Disneyland.
co-main event in the UFC's heavyweight division, live on ESPN+.
Someone who's got that much power that appeals to that whole
Spivak.
generation is so powerful, so powerful. And listen, if you get to win here Saturday night, you better believe as soon as the UFC comes back to the UK, you'll see something even more special from Paddy the Baddy.
Here's the polar bear. This is the man taking on Tom Aspinall in the co-main event. Sergey Spivak, he stepped up last minute after Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich fell off. Here he is.
Hey, I tell you what, it's a good job this kid can fight.
2:38.5.
Cannot talk.
Sergey Spivak.
He can't talk to save his blooming life. My word. His last fight, he looked really good. Who did he beat? Alexei Olenek. And I went in there to do the in-fight interview. Oh, my God. It was hard. We were using a translator, but he wasn't talking. And when he did speak, it was one-word answers. I'd ask him like a long-winded question. And he'd go, yes. No. and then on Wednesday, when the pre-fight interviews, again, he literally just looked at us. Yeah,
maybe that's his.
I'm like,
maybe that's his thing, Mike. Maybe that's his thing. You know what I mean? The one-word Drago thing. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I know, but I'm asking a question. yes is not the answer to it. Yeah, but hey, listen, the man can fight. That's all. You know what I mean? We're here to see the personality. Also, he looks like that guy from The Burbs. You remember that movie with Tom Hanks, The Burbs? You know, one of them he's like a serial killer. He's a dead ringer for him, man. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? The ginger one with the ginger sideburns. He looks bang on. That's him all day. But yeah, man, no, it's going to be a good fight. It's a good test for Tom. But I'll stop talking enough bad stuff about him. No, the guy's a tough fight. He's a very, very tough fight.
There you go. On the main card, by the way, we're only waiting for Tom Aspinall. He's trolling us all. He's living in the same house as Darren Till. Darren Till was first on the scales. Tom Aspinall's not been through yet. We're still waiting for him on that main card. There's not going to be a problem. He's an heavyweight. And we're also waiting for Jonathan Martinez off the prelims as well. All the Brits have come through. Everybody's on weight. All looking good, in great spirits and rehydrating as we're chatting right now. And all your questions are coming through right now. Loads of excitement as well. Man, it's always nice from a British fight fan's point of view when you're getting something on your own terms. Yes, this is happening in America. It's happening in Las Vegas. It's not happening at UFC London, which we're all disappointed about, of course. But to get this on a time which we can really enjoy rather than getting up in the early hours of the mornings, always a bonus. 7 p.m. is going to be your prelims with that 9 p.m. Main event. Main card getting underway, should I say. And we've got a few people like Jacob here. He says that this is the most hyped he's been for a UFC card that he can remember in recent times. Listen, you should try and go and live in at Nick Peet's house, mate. With all these scousers on this card. That's hyped. That's hyped up, isn't it, Nicholas?
Absolutely. Listen, obviously from a Liverpool MMA perspective, this event is absolutely unreal. 4 fighters, 3 on the main card, all from one city. It's kind of insane. But just to answer Jacob's question, the most hyped. Listen, man, of course I'm hyped about Paddy. I feel like it's been overdue. Is it the most hyped I've been? I was in Sweden for Conor McGregor's debut. That was pretty huge because of the way he signed. He was double Cage Warriors champion. I think Dana had been to Ireland and got lobbied by fans to finally sign Conor. So being out in Sweden when he made that debut was pretty huge. That felt like something special. And of course, he absolutely delivered on it as well. Other big debuts. Oh, here's one that didn't go too well. CM Punk. That got an awful lot of attention and didn't go to plan, did it?
Yeah. And listen, Nick, for someone that's been covering fight sport for 20 years, you should have known to go back a little bit, mate. Remember when the Pride guys all came over? Shogun, Vanderlei Silva, Nogueira. There was so much hype for that because obviously there was the whole UFC versus Pride thing back in the day. So there was a ton of hype there. And it was crazy because when they came over, like Mirko Krokop, he had that first fight in Manchester against Gonzaga when I fought Elvis Sinisic. He got bingoed with a beautiful head kick and put to sleep. But I just want to touch on something you said there, Nick. Four guys from the same city. It's hilarious. So you Scousers, you call us woolly bags where we're from, where me and Adam are from. You criticize us. You offend us constantly. You call us woolly bags. But then when someone's fighting, you claim them. All of a sudden there's four. No, mate, there's three. He's from Lancashire, lad. Good old bloody Lancashire.
Listen. When you were based in Widnes, when you were based in Widnes, which is like woolly back Greater Liverpool, and I worked for the Liverpool Echo, I claimed you, son. I claimed you. I was like, Mike Bisping's fighting out of Liverpool. Hey, we'll have him. So yeah, as long as you win him, we'll claim you.
Yeah, because that lot that I was with back then, they did that. They told UFC Liverpool. I'm like, hold on a minute. Fighting out of Liverpool, we'll change that. So then I said Manchester, which I still get abuse for to this day because I'm from Clitheroe, but it's just outside of Manchester. You're there in half an hour. And on the international stage, nobody's heard of Clitheroe. Most people in England haven't heard of Clitheroe, for crying out loud. So I said Manchester because it's the closest city. I still have a few Manc fighters to this day talking bad about it. Saying, yeah, Bisping claims to be from Manchester and that, innit? But you know what I mean? It's not from Manchester. I'm like, shut up, idiot. Don't make me slap you. You know who you are.
More questions coming in, boys. We've got John Rico on Twitter here. Nick, I'll come to you first. What fight do you guys think will be the fight of the night tomorrow night?
Well,
you can't pick the main event, Nick.
No, I won't. Well, listen, the main event's going to be a sensational knockout. Of course, we all know that. And I think what you touched on earlier, Bukauskas versus Roundtree has got the hallmarks to be a fight of the night. But listen, I'm going to go with Molly McCann versus Ji Yeon Kim, just purely because if it's fight of the night, then that's Molly's type of fight. So that I'm going to go with Molly and Kim in the final prelim before that main card to light up the show and steal that $50,000 each bonus.
Mike, are you looking at something else?
Yeah, no, I am actually. And it seems like I'm just piggybacking on the UK guys, but I'm honestly not. I'm looking at the fight card there and, there's some great fights. There's some good talent on there and there's a lot of evenly matched fights as well. And this sounds like an obvious pick, but honestly, I think Paddy the Baddy and Luigi Vendramini might deliver because Paddy, as we know, is coming in. There's a lot of hype around him and he always lives up to that. He performs very, very well and he's put so much pressure on himself to have this outstanding performance. And I believe that he will. I don't know if he's going to win, but I believe he's going to give a really good showing of himself. And then when I was doing my research on Luigi this week, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, whoa, because I thought this was a much easier fight for Paddy. But then when I watched him properly and I started taking notes from my commentary, I'm like, hold on a minute. No, this ain't no walk in the park for anybody. Luigi's got powerful hands. He's a dog in there. He likes to fight. I mean, there was one fight I saw, he was down on 2 rounds. And in the 3rd round, he knew he had to get a knockout. And he went forward and he swung like a maniac. And he almost got the job done. He dropped his guy and he finished in mount and all the rest of it. He put a beating on the guy. In fact, it was his last fight out there. So don't count this guy out and don't take it for granted that Paddy's going to win this fight. So fight of the night, I think because of all the pomp and circumstance surrounding Paddy, and rightly so, I think it's going to be that one.
I think it's a good fight to flag. I think people tuning in on BT Sport tuning in for a little bit of a treat with the card, especially the start. You've got Paddy the Baddy taking on Vendramini, and then the fight after it is what I've tipped as a sleeper for maybe fight the night between Bukauskas and Round. 2 light heavyweights. They don't go backwards. They just like to throw leather. Somebody's going over. It's going to be a good start there. Maybe some bonuses coming out of those first 2 fights. That we are still waiting for Tom Aspinall to weigh in. Everybody else has come through from a British standpoint. I just want to flag up another British fighter who fought last weekend and a little bit of disappointing news for the dentist. Darren Stewart obviously was beaten last weekend. We've seen that he's been taken out of the UFC rankings pool, which obviously insinuates that he is no longer a UFC fighter, which is an awful shame because he's thoroughly entertaining. You're always buying a ticket for a Darren Stewart fight, win, lose or draw. He's always going to give you something. And even though he was on the receiving end of something last weekend, it wasn't an entertaining fight. You did for him, especially Mike, on the same card last weekend. And I just want to use this as a comparison. You had Sam Alvey on that card, and Sam Alvey's lost 7 on the spin. And there hasn't been word as of yet. I mean, I might be wrong. There hasn't been word as of yet that Sam Alvey's been cut. but Darren has.
Yeah, but Darren doesn't have a stupid smiley face shaved into the back of his head, does he? That's a joke, by the way. Yeah, absolutely gutted for Darren Stewart. I like everything about Darren. I like the way he carries himself. He's a proper fighter. You know, he's not afraid to go to war. Went up to 205. I think that was a bad idea. Just Dustin Jacoby. I mean, obviously, you walk up to 205, you're going to fight bigger guys. Dustin's a big dude. He's got tremendous striking. He was a Glory kickboxing champion. That was a bad fight on paper, and it was a fight on the night, unfortunately, for Darren. But Darren is a true fighter. In fact, I tweeted this week, I look forward to the comeback because I don't believe he's just going to, you know, for some people, they get to the UFC, they think they've made it, they have a run, they have a few fights, they win some, they lose some, and then their time is over. And often you see people say, okay, well, that's it. My run as a fighter is done. Now I made it to the UFC. Now I'm going to go get a job and get back to reality. You know, but we see some people, they get cut from the UFC and say, no, this is who I am. The fighting is what defines me. It's who I am by nature. And they go away and they have several other fights in the on the regional scene, and a year, 18 months, and they're back. You know, and it always impresses me, those people that have the mental fortitude to rebound, to not give up on their hopes and dreams. And honestly, Darren, I believe he's cut from that cloth, and hopefully it's not the last we see of him. Of course, a very devastating blow for him personally, but, you know, goes, man. It's the UFC. It's a tough sport.
Nick, I think Mike's right there. I don't think it's the last that we're going to see Darren Stewart. And I don't think he's going to be short of offers, especially on the British and European scene. I'm sure that people have already spoken to him this week to see what he wants to do next and when they can get him out.
Yeah, we've seen Jordan this run of, unfortunately, poor form at the moment. One of those fights during lockdown actually took place on a Cage Warriors card. I don't remember the UFC ever allowing one of their active fighters to compete at regional level while still being signed before. So, of course, no doubt Graham Boylan is salivating at the fact that he can throw him back at the top of Cage Warriors cards because he is still a big draw, the dentist, certainly domestically. But it is going to be tough for him. But let's look at this card alone.
All right, next fighter
Julian
to the scale, the other
Juicy
half of our
Jairose on this card. This guy's in his third stint in the UFC times. He's been in the UFC, been cut twice, so it can be done.
Here he is, Big Tom.
Big Tom. Straight out the shower, look, just woke up.
Been for a swim this morning, this lad, hasn't he? There you go.
247, the official weight for Tom Aspinall.
he's made us well all that time. See you in a bit, ta-da. I'm out of here.
Didn't even get a smile from him. Just incidentally, on the point you guys were chatting about before, in terms of Tom being potentially, the safe bet, if you like, to be the next British UFC champion. I agree with you. He is kind of the safe bet because he is taking this slow approach, but we can all see the qualities he's got to get there. But of all the fighters you mentioned that could get opportunities, the one we forgot to mention, I think we've got to mention, is Paul Craig. Paul Craig is ranked at light heavyweight. Oh, yeah. He's got big wins at light heavyweight. And to be honest with you, listen, I agree. Aspinall looks like the safe bet to get there. But Till is effectively a win or two away. Leon is a win or two away with the right bit of luck. Arnold Allen, if he can finally get a top 5 ranked up, could kind of muddle his way there. And likewise, Paul Craig. Look at the main man himself. Mike got the belt wrapped around his waist at 2 weeks' notice. All those guys, most of those guys, it could work out this way. So I think Tom is the safe bet. But Paul Craig, Arnold Allen, Leon Edwards, Darren Till, any of those guys could be a phone call away, a jump-in opportunity, and they've all got the ability to do it.
I'm glad you mentioned Paul Craig. Yeah. Sorry, Adam.
No, go on, Mike.
I'm glad you mentioned Paul Craig because he certainly does deserve a shout out. You know what I mean? And I think, and it's just a sign of the strength of British MMA right now, the fact that we didn't mention him wasn't because he's not deserving of a mention. It's because there's so much talent to get to. You know what I mean? We've got so much on the card, and we've got so much others domestically all around Great Britain that are really, really doing big things. And yeah, absolutely. Paul Craig, I don't know what it is. He's looking fantastic right now. He's just getting better and better. And as you say, you never know. You keep winning fights, to your point, somebody gets injured. They need an opportunity. Somebody needs to step in. You never know. Crazier things have happened. And do you know what? It couldn't happen to a nicer guy as well.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, top fella. Tweet coming in here from Ben regarding the bantamweight division being the hottest in the UFC at the moment. How close is Jack Shore away from that top 10 and the likes of Sean O'Malley? Listen, you're playing with matchmaking now, Ben. This has got me going, sunshine. That's a fight and a half, isn't it? I don't think... Jack Shore's close. Come on, man. We've got to be talking about... If he goes 15-0 at the weekend, and I know this is an opponent that's making his UFC debut kind of off the back of the Contender Series, and Jack's struggling to get the named opponents, he's got to be fighting. The UFC have got to be forcing the higher guys and giving them that incentive to fight someone like Jack Shore, just for Jack Shore's own development, haven't they, Mike?
Yeah, well, he was saying this week he's not too concerned with that. He'll just take it as it comes, one fight at a time. And of course, everybody wants to be ranked and they want to work their way up and be a star. The problem is, unfortunately, this doesn't really help him. You know what I mean? I would say with respect, even though I think Ludwig is a tough stylistic matchup, it doesn't really do him any points, any favors. It doesn't score him any points. It doesn't move him up the rankings. It's a difficult position for Jack because it's one of those fights that he's expected to win. You know, this guy's taking it on very, very short notice. He was on the Ultimate Fighter. That didn't go his way. You know, he showed some promise, though, you know, so he gets a crack in the UFC. So God bless him. Good for him. And you never know. You never know. He might go out there and beat Jack Shore. I don't think it's very likely, if I'm honest, but you never know. Crazier things can happen. As I said, he was a wrestling champion from Ukraine. You know, to achieve that in a country like Ukraine that's known for its wrestling is an incredibly difficult thing. But to answer the question, I'm going around the houses here, even if he beats Ludwig this weekend, it doesn't really progress his career. But he has the ability, he has the talent, and he'll have the record as well. I mean, that's a sexy record, 15-0. I mean, when was the last time a British person had a record of 15-0? Wow, I don't know, but he went on to good things.
The frustrating things, I think, for a lot of fans, Nick, who watch MMA and understand MMA, they know how good Jack Shore is. They know it. And therefore, a lot of people can maybe get carried away with this sport developing purely on the talent that we see inside the octagon. It sadly doesn't work like that. You've kind of got to add a little bit outside the octagon as well, haven't you? If only he dropped a few names on the microphone when Michael would stick his microphone in his face on Saturday night or something. It's not his style. I know it's not his style. But if he did that, if he got a little bit leery, let's just say, I think he'd progress even further because that's how the game works.
100%, you know, and that is now got to be part of the thinking going into this fight at the weekend. A late replacement opponent, a guy making his debut. Okay, I'm going to show this guy the levels he's just jumped up to. I'm going to do a bit of a number on him, prove a point. And then when Mr. Bisping steps inside the octagon, I'm going to rock the microphone as well. And I've spent a lot of time with Jack over the last 6 months or so. We've been doing commentary for national radio and everything else. And he's got a great personality. He loves the sport. He absolutely knows the sport inside and out. Like Tom Aspinall, trained by his father, career martial artist, just lives, eats and breathes this sport. Great knowledge of it. I think he realizes that he's got to become an attraction. You know, this is sports entertainment at the end of the day, sports and entertainment. He realizes that he's got to become a draw. And listen, talent-wise, I'd put him in with anybody in the top 15 right now. Of course I would. And I'm sure Jack would take that opportunity. But you've got to force your hand. You've got to force those men in that room, Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard, Dana White. You've got to force them to make a decision about you. And just icing somebody making the debut isn't going to be enough for Jack this weekend. He's got to leave an impression with Mike Bisping on the microphone as well, for sure.
I totally agree, Nick. And the problem is, I mean, he says there, the question was, you know, somebody like Sean O'Malley, you know, he's a million light years away from that, unfortunately. What you said about the sports and the entertainment, sadly it is true because but it's not sad either. At the same time, it's great because the UFC has such a loyal fan base all over the world. The fans are so for it. And the UFC are known for putting on the fights that people want to see. Right? And how do you get people or legions of fans, the whole country behind you, clamoring to see you fight? You got to have a little bit of star power. You got to have a little bit of sizzle. You got to have a little bit of charisma when you get on the microphone as well. Of course, number one, do the job inside the octagon. But then if you build that fan base by having the charisma and the UFC see that and they feel that, well, then guess what? You're going to get the bigger matchups. You're going to get the big names because eyeballs translate into dollars. That's just how it works. And it's a sad state of affairs, but that is the facts of the matter.
So therefore, on the, I was going to say, therefore, at the weekend when the broadcast is on, just expect Bisping to be. Go on then. No, don't go anywhere yet. Go on then.
Go on. Yeah, exactly. I'm insisting on names. Anybody watching this, if you're fighting this weekend and you're watching this, give yourself a slap because you shouldn't be. But if you are watching this, when I stick a microphone in front of your face and you don't give me a name, woe betide, lad. We'll be having a word backstage.
Absolutely.
Woe betide is Northwest phrase.
Yeah.
Go on, Nick. Sorry,
Listen,
I keep interrupting you.
I've got an idea here because let's be honest. When mixed martial arts, when UFC, when it was put together, when it was devised, when it was actually presented by Dana and the Fertittas in the current global phenom that it is right now, it took the best of two different worlds. It took the best of competitive boxing, one weight class, one champion, one weight division, everything that's good and pure about boxing, the competitive side of it. And it took the glamour and the entertainment from WWE, from wrestling. And we kind of got a mix of both worlds. And that's why UFC, that's why mixed martial arts is this superpower sport that it is right now and such a hugely popular sport globally. Can we go back, Mike, do you think, and take something else from WWE? Can Spivak, Arnold Allen, Leon Edwards, what if they employed like a Paul Bearer type character? So they didn't have to do the talking like The Undertaker. They just deliver inside the octagon, say nothing, and then you get this Paul Bearer type come up and do the talking for them. Could we get away with that, do you think? Would that work?
No.
Listen, Diego Sanchez had one of them, and look how that went. We don't want any of that nonsense, do we?
Hey, I don't know if you saw the headlines this week. Diego Sanchez says that the devil came to him. And I love Diego, far be it from me. The guy's a legend. I love his body of work. He's a great guy. He really is. And he went off the deep end with that guy, that charlatan, Joshua Fabia. But he came out this week and he said that the devil appeared to him quite some time ago and offered him in return for Diego's soul to give him all the fame and all the riches. And had he have taken that deal, he would have been Conor McGregor right now. But being a good little Christian boy, he said no. And at that point, I rolled my eyes harder than anybody's ever rolled their eyes in their life. I'm like, oh my God, get a grip.
So you're not up for hype men? You're not up for people doing the chatting for them?
No. I like that, but I do recall because when I got to the UFC and you see in Pride, we mentioned Pride before for the fans that don't know, the listeners that don't know, Pride was an organization out in Japan that had like 90,000 people in the buildings, and the level of fighting and the tournaments and stuff were fantastic. They really were. And they had a diehard audience. But when you walked out for the Pride fights, they had like WWE, the big runways, and you walk out and there was lasers and all kinds of stuff. And the production value was amazing. And I remember saying to Dana after I'd won the Ultimate Fighter, I said, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And he felt that level of it kind of takes away from the trueness of the sport. He said he prefers it more like boxing, which I fully understand. I fully get. Of course, you want a bit of entertainment, but you also want it to be looked at, and to be recognized like a legit sport like boxing. So that's why they're coming through the crowd the way that they do. And probably because they can sell more tickets as well, let's be honest.
You could go. Listen, we could go into like some of the Eastern European productions as well, like KSW, and they've got geezers coming out dressed as the Beatles and all that type of carry on, haven't they? You know what I mean? That's what we need to do, Nick. We need people dressing up on their ring walk. Let's go full Nazim Ahmed, flying carpets. That's the type of vibe that we need.
Lee Murray, back in the day, shout out Lee Murray. He came out as Hannibal Lecter, didn't he? With the orange jumpsuit on and the face mask and the handcuffs. God bless. You couldn't do that these days. I remember because like Reebok, they were like, they were hardcore. You had to follow the rules. I got a little bit of trouble for this. I might have got a little warning by the UFC. I was right before I fought Luke Rockhold for the world title belt. I'm in the locker room and I'm just warming up. And any minute now, I'm about to make my walk. As you can imagine, a very nerve-wracking situation. And the Reebok dude comes in. Right, just going to make sure you're wearing nothing but Reebok. I'm like, yeah, look, nothing but Reebok. Get out. And he's like, let me see your underpants. I'm like, oh my God, there you go. No one's going to get to see my underpants, by the way. Show him the underpants. And he says, what about your cup, your groin guard? I'm like, you what? He's like, yeah. Pull your things down, undo that. I need to make sure that there's no logos on your cup. I'm like, Get the bleep, bleep, bleep out of here. Are you messing? I'm about to walk out in 2 minutes and you want me to strip down and undress to make sure that there's no bloody anti-Reebok ball protector? Are you out of your mind? Get out. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know why I mentioned that. Yeah, you couldn't do it in the Reebok day and age. Went off on a tangent there, my God.
I started talking about ball bearer, and he's talking about ball bearer.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
well, I'm sorry. I lost my ball bearings on that one.
I love that. I love the fact all we were talking about is how does Jack Shaw cut through, away from obviously doing it inside the octagon. We've now got him a hype man, and he's coming in on a magic carpet, and he's got to flash himself a little bit to cut through with the audience. There we go, Jack. That's how you got to do your business, mate. The weekend. All he's got to concentrate on, Nick, he's doing it inside the octagon. He's been pitch perfect so far, hasn't he? And listen, we've all said it. This opponent at the weekend's not necessarily going to do that, but a little bit of something on the microphone just might then propel him into something later on this year against one of the heavier ranked bantamweights, which is what he needs.
Yeah, he does. He needs a ranked opponent. He needs a name, if not a ranked opponent, just someone that fans are familiar with that maybe has fallen down the rankings a little bit. That's what he's desperate for. And it's a shame, really, that, listen, the main thing is he's still got that and we talk about this a lot in boxing, not much in MMA, but it is significant. There's a reason why Khabib is right in the GOAT conversation. That is really important, and it can be some leverage, and it will draw in, potential other opponents as well, because they'll want to be the first guy to beat Jack Shaw. So as long as he protects that, as long as he looks sensational again, it would be great if he called somebody out. But as Mike said, even if he gets the mic and starts rocking Sean O'Malley's name, he's still not quite there yet in terms of his media presence for that to be taken seriously. He's got to call out somebody that has legitimately got an opportunity to fight them next. He just needs to stay busy, Jack. And one day he will get there. Eventually he'll get there. And hopefully by this time next year, we're talking about him fighting ranked guys and really pushing on for a title opportunity.
Speaking of them title opportunities, because we've had a couple of questions coming in via the show today about the Brit that will challenge next, or the Brit that will become champion next. And obviously you look at the guys that are further down the line, people like Leon Edwards. And Mike, I'm referring back now to the show that we did maybe a couple of months ago now, where we were talking about potential match could make by the end of the year. We've seen recently Jorge Masvidal. He's been doing various things. He's been in the public presence, and he's been talking about his own career and what he wants next. He wants the fight that gets him the closest back to welterweight title. He's had 2 cracks in it against Kamaru Usman and fallen short, one in dramatic style, of course. The obvious fight with the narrative is the fight that you pitched on that particular day, Leon Edwards. It amazes me that we're not seeing too much noise from Camp Edwards or even Camp Masvidal towards that fight.
Yeah, same here. When that happened back in 2019, I thought that would have got matched up straight away. It made perfect sense. And now with Masvidal being in the position that he is after just losing to Kamaru, and as you said, wants the fight that's going to get him nearest to the belt. Well, Leon Edwards ticks all the boxes, 100%. He's the fight. He's got the record. He's got the resume. He's beaten all the people. He just beat Nate Diaz, but he's not going to get a title shot. Just for the same reasons we were just talking about Jack Shaw's progression being a little slower than usual, right? And that's not a knock on Leon Edwards. That's just who he is, and I respect that. But this fight has to be made. The only, I don't know if this is the reason, but I'm just completely speculating here. If it was my organization, I'm not sure if that would be the fight I'd make. Of course, as a fan, in terms of logical progression of the fighters who should fight each other, it makes sense. And in terms of who fights for the belt next, if Leon can beat a Masvidal, he's right in there. And if Masvidal beats Leon, again, he's almost there fighting for the belt again. So it all makes sense for that reason. But Masvidal's a star. But Masvidal sells a lot of pay-per-views, right? And how long is that star going to burn for? How bright is that? How long is it going to last? You know what I'm saying? So if it was my organization, I'd want to put Masvidal in there with another star. And I'm not saying Leon's not a star. He should be a star. But you know what I mean? He's not a massive pay-per-view draw or a needle mover, as they say. If it's my organization, I'd put Masvidal in there with another needle mover. You know what I mean? Because then that's a huge fight. And I think that might be the only reason why that fight hasn't happened just yet.
You're talking Conor, you're talking Nate. That's where you're talking in those weight categories, aren't you?
Well, you're talking
Conor,
potentially
you're talking Nate.
You're talking the winner of Robbie Lawler versus Nick as well. That throws up an opportunity
yeah,
too.
It's a shout. It's a good shout. Great shout.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Leon, that's the problem. Unfortunately for Leon, there's bigger fish out there. There's bigger pay-per-view co-headliners out there for Jorge Masvidal. It's crazy to think we've got that footage, the 3-piece and a soda. You've got it there. It's Leon's version of Conor throwing the dolly at the window at the bus. But it just says a lot for where Leon's star power is lacking. That even with that footage, even with that material to build on, he can't get there. But you know what? I'm going to turn it back to Leon. Why is he not all over social media every day, campaigning, talking about
just about to say
eating
that.
Eating 3-piece and a soda himself, saying, come on, where are you, coward? Flying to Miami, demanding it. Like, that should be every single day, relentless social media activity from Leon. I know it's not in his makeup, but guess what? You better add it to your makeup or you're never going to be champion. That's just the world we live in. This is the business. Understand the business. It's prize fighting.
I'm not sure about flying to Miami. They're a rough crew down there. You might get left in a grave. But other than that, everything else you say, I totally agree. Leon should be on social media day in, day out, having someone on his team making memes and all the rest of it, demanding him, as you say, calling him a coward, saying, you're man enough to hit me backstage, you man enough to sucker punch me, be man enough to sign the contract. That's what he should be doing. But he's not doing that. And again, Leon does his talking in the octagon and everybody respects that. But still, if he wants that fight, listen, Masvidal's got a temper. I've gone back and forth with Masvidal. I mean, we're good now these days, but we used to have a bit of a beef. And trust me, he can't resist getting on social media. I got quite the nasty messages in my inbox, let me tell you. So if Leon was to do that, I think he'd find a quite willing dance partner to go both with. And then if you start going back and forth on social media, like I said before, the UFC put on the fights that people want to see. And if they're going back and forth and trading insults, the fans start salivating and then the UFC send the contracts.
Listen, I think he's got to take a little bit of a leaf out of Gilbert Burns' book. Look how vocal Gilbert's been. I know that it's not materialised as of yet, but every single day I switch on social media and Gilbert's doing something. He's calling somebody out. He's calling somebody X, Y, and Z, And at some point, that is going to pay off. And therefore, I wouldn't be surprised, gents, if I know that Gilbert's already had an opportunity and he fell short against Kamaru Usman. I won't be surprised if Gilbert gets an opportunity before Leon again because of the way he's been on social media.
Yeah, and Leon
ahead of Gilbert. Vicente Luque is already ahead of Gilbert as well. And it looks like Colby's, it's how far down the pecking order is Leon Edwards? Despite this unbeaten run, how far down the pecking order is he? It's insane.
And to your point, Adam, Gilbert is active on social media, but he's also not that guy. He's not a disrespectful guy.
No,
and he's not talking about people in a disrespectful way. He's just demonstrating his confidence in his ability by saying, hey, he's calling out these people. You don't necessarily have to be outlandish. You don't have to be insulting. You don't have to use colorful language, but you can get on there and you can express to the world that I believe I'm the best and I believe I should get the shot. So line them up, whoever. As we say, we don't see that from Leon. We need to see that. As I say, he doesn't need to be Conor McGregor. He doesn't need to be insulting people. He doesn't need to be making a fool out of himself and embarrassing his mum or whatever, for want of a better term. But he does need to put his name out there and demand that some of these top guys fight him.
Yeah. Listen, I couldn't agree more. I think Gilbert Burns has been fantastic since his last victory, and we'll see what happens with him next. Just in case you are tuning in, we've got about 15 minutes still remaining of the weigh-ins. There's nothing to be concerned about. All the Brits have come through. They're well and truly done and dusted, even the heavyweights. All the main card, everybody's weighed in, job done. So that Derek Brunson, Darren Till is in the tin and it's ready to rock and roll for you tomorrow night. Just a quick reminder that the prelims get underway at 7 p.m. on BT with the main card from 9 p.m. The co-main event of Aspinall versus Spivak, that's done and dusted as well. You've also got Modestas Bukauskas, who came through a little earlier on against Khalil Lountree, and Paddy the Paddy makes his UFC debut against Luigi Vendramini. That was the main card from 9 o'clock. Molly McCann's weighed in. Jack Shaw's weighed in. We are just waiting for Jonathan Martinez, who is the first fighter on the prelims, taking on Marcelo Rojo in the bantamweight division. Just waiting for him, and I'm led to believe, gentlemen, that we're going to get some face-offs as well at the end of this. So we'll get to see him going toe-to-toe, looking into the eyes of each other before they throw down tomorrow night, of which Mr. Michael Bisping, we haven't celebrated, have we, my friend? We haven't celebrated. I know that this show is obviously catered for talking about your award nominations and what have you, but congratulations, my friend, because your tones are going to be heard on UFC broadcast now for the next 4 years. Look at that, lad, eh? Money, 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 must be funny.
Oh, my word. You know what I was thinking? I haven't had my my urine extracted on this show today. I'm like, what is going on? You're missing a trick.
But
no,
that's the praise.
I know. Thank you very much. No, I'm very happy about it. Obviously, you know, a lot of people have said, "Oh, congrats on the contract extension." I'm like, yeah, but the way I look at it is that I just didn't get fired. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I've still got 4 years to get through. There's a very good chance of that. Let's be honest. So, but no, listen, you know, for me, the way I look at it, you know, I had a good career and, you know, I made some money and stuff, but I'm obsessed with this sport. I absolutely love it. I live it and I breathe it. So to be, you know, commentating the UFC it truly is an honor. Listen, the money's great and it's a great job. But as a fighter and for a post-fight career, I mean, you can't ask for a better situation. Got some other stuff that I do, but I love the fact that I commentate for the UFC. I thank Dana White. I thank the whole organization. And yeah, no, it's I'm very, very happy and proud to continue my role. Now go ahead and make fun of me all you want.
No, mate, it's not. This is blowing smoke a little bit. I think from our point of view, mine and Nick's point of view, we obviously want, and you do as well, of course, but we want more people to come and love the thing that we love. We want them to come in. And the way that you do that is obviously with knowledge. You educate and teach people some stuff. So who better than an ex-world champion to be able to do that particular role? But you also do it with entertainment and fun. You need to make people feel like they're sat in the pub with you watching the fight. They're learning something, but they're also enjoying that. And I think the dynamic that the UFC have put together with the various commentary teams, when you're in there, you're having a bit of a crack with DC, you're having a bit of a crack with Anik. It works, man. That's the strength of that. And I think other fight sports and other sports in general can learn from that, because that's what people want. They want to learn something, but they also want to feel like they're having a bit of fun and they're out with their mates.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because I do watch, obviously I didn't go to college or anything, do a degree in journalism or study how to be a sports commentator. I've learned all on the job. And I got to say, the UFC production team do a great job of supporting to get much information. We have the fighter meetings prior to every fight on the Wednesday. So they really do a good job.
Division, Jonathan Martinez.
But when I watch other sports, the commentary is very dry. You're absolutely right in your point there. Let's say, I'll just finish that point in just a second, but let's take a listen.
Here's our last guy, Jonathan Martinez. Bantamweight fight, 136 is what we're looking for.
He doesn't look too confident, does he?
No.
Yep. That's why he was so late.
The official weight for Jonathan Martinez.
He's missed.
I mean, that's not good. Last time we saw him as well, Davey Grant knocked him out.
Down in about 15 minutes. Thank you all for sticking around.
In a great fight, mind you. Martinez has a lot of hype. Davey took him out of there, but to come back and rebound from that loss in spectacular fashion, he's got to win in spectacular fashion. And the first opponent is the scale, and he's been defeated.
Well, he missed weight. He missed bantamweight back in 2020. They forced him. The UFC said, right, go up to featherweight. He goes up to featherweight, beats Thomas Almeida, then says, right, I want to go back to bantamweight. Goes back to bantamweight and gets knocked out in the first round by Davey Grant. It's crazy. This guy seems like he's a featherweight trying to be a bantamweight. He's been successful at featherweight. Why is he trying to force himself back down again?
No idea. But I was just going to say, just on the commentary, allow me to get back to talking about myself for a second. No. There is a fine line, because I do try and have that approach, like you're watching your mates talking at a bar. That's a perfect example. But you don't want to take away from what's happening in the octagon. So there's a fine line. You're trying to make a few jokes and some light-hearted quips here and there, and we have a laugh. But also at the same time, there's people making a lot of sacrifices, and it's a very dangerous environment. So it's a fine line you've got to walk. You know what I mean? So anyway, but cheers, Adam, for bringing that up.
No, mate. Listen, the whole thing that the UFC are doing at the moment, team that they're putting in place, and we saw this week as well. Congratulations! I don't know, she's probably doing her own weighing show at the moment for the UFC, but Laura Sanko this week was a colour commentator of part of the Contender Series stuff this week. And Nick, that is huge because we haven't had a female as part of the colour commentary team since UFC 1, way back in the day. And for Laura now to be breaking through and doing what she's doing and being that pioneer now for the next generation is a massive thing. And again, just proves that if you're good enough, bang, the UFC will put you in there.
100%, and it's not like she hasn't worked for it. My goodness, she's put the work in. You know, she's competed inside the octagon herself. She trained, she fought, and she deserves the opportunity. And incidentally, I was watching it, the replay the following morning, and my wife kind of walked past the TV and double check and was like, "Is that a lady commentating?" And I was like, "Yeah." How amazing is that? She picked up on it straight away, and she was like, "Wow, okay." So straight away, it kind of maybe changed her mentality a little bit of what the MMA and the sport should sound like as well as look like. Listen, MMA's been sensational for female athletes ever since Ronda kicked the hinges off the door and got women inside the UFC. But you know, mixed martial arts is right across the board. You know, this is not like boxing or many other sports where women do less and get paid less and everything else. The opportunity's there for all. So it's no surprise to me that Laura was put forward and given this opportunity. And you better believe in the next 12 months, she'll get an opportunity to do comms on a full UFC card as well. And she deserves it because she's very good. That's all that matters.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dana already tweeted that she will be doing fight nights as well, which is Laura's a great girl and she puts to work. She's very, very professional. You know what I mean? She does her research, she does all the rest of it, and she what's the word I'm looking for? She has delved really into this sport in many ways. She commentates for Invictus. She's doing this Wimp to Warrior season out in America now as well with John Kavanagh amongst many others. And she does deserve it. And she's campaigned for it hard. And I'm like, I texted her the other day. I said, congrats on the job, but that's my job. There's only so many mouths to feed. Everybody in the UFC, they're all coming for my job. Every one of them. Michael Chiesi's at it. Alan Joe Band's at it. They're all at it. I'm like, do you realize you are publicly campaigning to take away the job that I use to feed my family? Shame on you people. Shame.
Mate, you just signed a 4-year deal. You're all right for 4 years.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're all good.
Listen, just before we get the face-offs for this fight night between Brunson and Till, we're going to stick around for that because I know that you'll probably want to see it. There's a couple of questions coming in. Chris has thrown one here. What's a fight that could happen within the next 6 months that you would love to see? We kind of did this a couple of months ago, didn't we? But maybe it has changed. Nick, what's yours? What are you going with? Over the next 6 months, what fight would you like to see that could possibly be made?
Come on. Really? We're going to go there? On a Till fight night weigh-in.
Go on. Stop it now.
Listen, let's just get this win on Saturday night and then I'll get super excited first. Let's see Till get his arm raised. Let's see him take the microphone off Mr. Bisping, call out Adesanya, get him out of New Zealand, get him over to the UK. That's the fight to me. Anfield, start of next year. Thank you very much. And the new.
And the new indeed. Mike, what's yours?
First of all, ain't nobody taking that microphone off me on Saturday, right? That's rule number one in the comments. Rule number one, never let anybody take the microphone because when they get there, that's it. They're holding court and we've got TV schedules to stick to. Do you know what I mean? So Till, love him, but he ain't taking that microphone off me. Otherwise, we'll find out who the real best middleweight from England is. It's got to be Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou. Come on, that fight has to happen. I mean, we know the whole John Jones saga that's going on, that's bubbling in the background, and we want to see that as well. But right now, you've got a champion undisputed, and you've got an interim champion as well. That fight has to happen. I think Jones versus Stipe, that could be a nice alternative matchup for John Jones. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I'd love to see that as well, Nick, of course, without question. But yeah, you're asking a question. What's one fight I'd like to see? Gane and Ngannou.
Yeah, man.
Paris.
Listen, I'm already getting...
Got to be Paris, though.
Yeah, you're right.
I want to go to Paris. I've got to see that fight.
Listen, I'm already getting my New York as the destination for Chandler versus Gaethje. But the other one that I was speaking about on that show, boys, because I just want him to get a bit of a challenge. I know he's been out recently talking about, why do I need to fight any contenders when I'm getting this amount of money to fight these guys? I might as well stay at that level. I want to see a challenge for Sean O'Malley, and I want that challenge to be Cody Garbrandt. That's where I'm at, boys. That's because I just think the fans would really buy into that, and I think it'd be flames.
Cody Garbrandt has just been matched up with Kiakara France, unfortunately.
In December.
Flyweight.
He's gone down.
In December.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I'll tell you what then. Jack Shaw, do the business this weekend. Get on the microphone and call Sean O'Malley out. There you go. We'll go with Jack Shaw against Sean O'Malley. Let's have that one.
Never in a million years. Never in a million years. I was at that Jake Paul, Tyrone Woodley fiasco on Sunday. It was actually very entertaining. Who am I kidding? And it was a fun night. But Sean O'Malley was there. I went backstage, just to spend a penny. And there's Sean O'Malley there, looking very slick, by the way. He had this suit on with nothing underneath the suit jacket, a big, massive head of pink hair. But I got to say, he rocked it. If I did that, I'd look like an absolute fool. But Sean O'Malley looked cool as hell. And I was asking him, I said, who's next? He said, well, there's people talking about Dominic Cruz. He said, I'd take that matchup. I said, a fantastic matchup. I'm not sure if that's going to happen because O'Malley had some kind of controversial things to say this week, didn't he? He said, I'm on a contract. I get paid where I get paid. So I don't care. Why would I fight a top 10 guy when I can fight an unranked opponent for the same amount of money? Which definitely raised a few eyebrows, shall we say. But I do like the Sugar Show. I'm on board. I'm on the bandwagon.
Johnny wants to know who the most improved fighter on the roster in all our opinions is. That's interesting.
So let's go through all 600 people on the roster real quick.
Jed, the one that stands out for me, and I don't know where you're at, the one that stands out for me of recent times that maybe took me by surprise that they won a fight and then won the fight after that as well is probably Brandon Moreno, because of the defeats that he suffered in that division and the way that he took care of Davis and Figueiredo. I'm a big fan of Figueiredo. I thought Figueiredo was the guy at that division. And Moreno, maybe he's done me with the personality, but I think Moreno might be the guy that is the most improved over the last year to 2 years.
It's a good shout. He's certainly climbed to the top of the tree in his weight division. As Mike said, there's an awful lot of fighters to think about right now in terms of the Brits. The British Asian, again, to go back to light heavyweights, Paul Craig.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The run he's on at the moment. What's he won his last 4 or his last 5? I think the only blemish in there was the draw with Shogun out in Brazil, which, let's be honest, that he probably should have got a win there. So he's completely turned his career around. There's a point with Paul Craig where he was, I think he was 10 seconds away from potentially being cut, and then he threw up a submission. And since then, he's been on an incredible run. He's got himself a top ranking position. He's bagged at least 3 or 4 performance bonuses along the way, and he's a genuine threat in that light heavyweight at 205. So yeah, I think British wise, which I can only really think of the Brits right now. I'd say Paul Craig, most improved, gone from happy to be in the UFC, proven himself UFC caliber, to actually being a contender. Unreal.
Good shout.
You know what? To be honest, that is a good shout, and I think. Not British guys, I think in general, that's a good shout because Paul Craig came to the UFC and he was struggling, but he did find those last minute submissions very exciting. But now, as you say, he's on a 4-fight win streak. Well, 5 fights since he lost. He's got 1 draw in there, 4 wins. We've got guys like Jamal Hill, who's obviously a young rising prospect. Prior to that, Shogun Rua. I called that fight in Brazil, and as I said before, Paul's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I was like, man, he's fighting Shogun. Oh, God, this ain't going to be a good night for him. And he went out there and bloody absolutely blitzed him in the opening bell. And fair play to Shogun having the heart that he has for even getting through that first round, because it was quite the sensational beating that he took. So, yeah, it has been, I won't say a massive 180. I'll say a 145.
Jan Blachowicz, I've just been texted by someone. Jan Blachowicz is as a most improved fighter as well. Shout. That's a shout, isn't it? I mean, going from where he was in that particular division to where he is right now, it's not a bad shout, that. Not a bad shout indeed. Jeds, just before these guys and girls hit the stage and do the face-offs and we give the people watching at home what they want, a little bit of animosity and what have you, just quickly back onto the main event, Mike. I know that you've talked about the stylistic matchup here, but the ramifications of this fight are absolutely massive. For the victor, you would think if it's in style, they're going in a certain direction. For the loser, what happens?
Well, I mean, for Derek Brunson, he's on a 4-fight win streak. I don't think much changes. You know what I mean? For Derek Brunson, he'll still be a part of the roster, as will Darren, of course. No one's getting cut on a loss, but he'll just be business as usual, and he'll be disappointed that he lost the fight. But at 38 years old, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to rebound. So there's a potential that this could be the last run at a title run for Derek Brunson. As I say, 38. If he loses this one, we're talking almost 40 years old. He's going to build his way back up again historically, we don't see that happening, So it's a good time for him, and he's got to win this fight. It's a big fight for him in terms of his matchup and maybe his last chance.
We welcome in our matchmaker, Sean Shelby, and we'll begin with the prelims, all of which can be seen live on ESPN+. First out to shoot in the bantamweight division, Jonathan Martinez versus Marcelo Rojo.
There you go. Doesn't take too much effort.
But Darren Till, if he loses, it's just back to the drawing board. You rebuild, you go again. He's young enough to do it. Anyway.
I think the only negative for Till really would be the fact that, it's one thing jumping in your sixth UFC fight to fight for the UFC title over in Dallas.
Dalsha Lungiambula versus
losing to Tyron Woodley, who was at the peak of his powers. And, okay, that hasn't aged so well, but at the time, Woodley was outstanding. And then getting caught cold by a Masvidal in the best year of Masvidal's life. He was Fighter of the Year in 2019. He was part of Masvidal's story. That's one thing. And getting edged out by Robert Whittaker for the number one contender spot, that's another thing.
Right,
but those three losses, Masvidal was a free class, Woodley was the champion, Whittaker was a final eliminator. It's different getting beat by Derek Brunson. I think Derek Brunson would be, out of those three losses he's had in the UFC already, that would be a bit of a kick in the teeth. That would be a real tumble down the rankings, and that would make the road back a little bit more difficult for Darren Till. But you're right. He's 28 years of age. He's just getting started. And as he likes to tell us, Darren Till is not going to go undefeated for the next 10 years. It isn't happening. He will lose some. He will win some. And hopefully he wins the right ones to win the belt at some stage.
Jack Shaw, first of the Brits that you will see in action tomorrow night. Don't forget the prelims get underway from 7 p.m. Jack there, undefeated through 14 fights. This is his 15th pro MMA fight. He's been absolutely superb so far. Expecting big things of him, and he'll be the first Brit that you see in action on BT Sport 2.
UFC flyweight division, Molly McCann versus Ji-Yeon Kim.
And right on cue, here comes the second Brit that you're going to see in action. Molly McCann taking on Ji-Yeon Kim. Cool, calm, collected. Got a little bit of a freeze.
Too bad there. Yeah, the height difference doesn't look too bad. Maybe Molly's got trainers on. It looks like a couple of inches there, though.
Molly looks like she's been out in that Vegas sun a bit.
Yeah.
Send us some of that Factor 50, mate. Get it sorted.
All right, that brings us to the main card for UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Till. It can also be seen live on ESPN+. Main card opener in the lightweight division, Paddy Pimblett versus Luigi Vendramini.
See, he said he's going to steal the show. He said even from the weigh-ins, etc. So let's see what he does here.
Taking it easy, mate.
He's quite relaxed.
Look at Sean. Hang on. Sean's obviously spent some time with Paddy this week, and look at him. He's right in the middle of it. He knows it's going to go off at some point.
He's ready to jump in.
Paddy. Good lad.
He doesn't look like a baddie there. Looks like a lovely young lad.
Modestas Bukauskas versus Khalil Roundtree Jr.
Southampton zone. There he is, Modestas Bukauskas. Khalil Roundtree. Like I said, I've said it all along, broadcast boys. My little sleeper for Fight of the Night. These lads don't go backwards. Should be a cracking fight.
Yeah, 100%. Modestas, he's fantastic to watch. And Khalil, how can you not like Khalil? The way he carries himself, he's a good dude. He's a very, very good man. And he performs inside the octagon. Will be a good one.
In the UFC's welterweight division, Alex Morono versus David Zavada.
The only fight on the main card that does not feature a British. Should be a good one, though.
Hey, listen, 100%. We haven't really spoke about this one. Zawada's very, very technical. And Morono, I mean, listen, this man can bang. You know, I love the way Alex Morono fights. And you see the intensity on both of them. Last time we saw Morono, he knocked out Donald Calbroni, remember? On short notice, I believe, as well.
All right, that brings us to the co-main event of the UFC's heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Spivak.
Time for some big lads. Here comes Big Tom and Sergey.
They are big, aren't they? I mean, Sean's not the tallest guy in the world, but for context, you know what I mean? It makes them look even bigger. There's nothing Sean can do either. If they decide to kick off, I mean, Sean, I believe, as a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Two of the middleweight division's best, Derek Brunson versus Darren Till.
All right, here we go.
Let's get some intensity going. Till's not got dressed.
No.
He went in 2 hours ago. Where's he been?
He's like, I'm in good shape. I'm milking this. I'm letting the world see me with almost a six-pack.
Yeah. You were a talker in these moments as well, Mike, weren't you? Like a little bit of a chat in these moments.
Always. I would always take advantage of this opportunity.
Darren Till live under the lights here at the UFC
because
tomorrow night. You can see it on ESPN Plus. One more sleep, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
You can mess with them mentally. You know, it won't always work, but there is a possibility. You get in their face and you drive it home. Listen, I'm coming for you tomorrow night, mate. Make no mistake. When you're locked in there with me, you have made a big mistake and blah, 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 blah. And maybe some people watching at home go, oh, God, look at the way he carries himself. You're trying to win a fight. And if you can get in there and you can just drop a little seed of doubt in them, I'm telling you, you've won the fight. They say it all the time. You can win the fight on the scales. That's why I would be doing a fair bit of effing and jeffing. But, none of that today. Nice to see.
Listen, you enjoy yourself tomorrow night. Looking forward to those post-fight interviews and you setting up all those fighters for name dropping. That's what we want to see. Looking forward to that. Everybody that has watched this with us here today, you're in for a treat tomorrow because the prelims get underway with that main card doing the business from 9 on BT Sport 2. Those are not wrong times that are printed. They are bang on for the European time zone. Make sure you come and join us. Set your alarm now so you don't miss it. 7 p.m. prelims, main card, 9 p.m. BT Sport 2, the destination for you for Brunson versus Till. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll give you a review show of this event at the start of next week. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Hola.